Chapter 1544. On a mountain peak in the Mountain Sea Secret Realm, Huang Shi and the other three, as well as Murongyu, stood there and looked into the distance. Not long after, a stream of light shot over from afar and stopped in front of Murongyu and the other four. A young man appeared in front of Murongyu. Of course, those who looked young might not necessarily be young. How many sages were truly young? Especially those who were powerful. He was a peak ancestor sage. Huang Shi, the person you want to introduce to me isn't this kid, right? The young man glanced at Huang Shi and the other three, then looked at Murongyu. When he saw that Murongyu only had the strength of an ancient sage, his eyes were filled with disdain. This bastard is really looking down on others. Huang Shi cursed in his heart, but on the surface he smiled and said to the young man, "Du Yuan Zhou, the person I want to introduce to you is him." Before Huang Shi could finish his sentence, Du Yuan Zhou, who was a young man, said impatiently, "Huang Shi, are you messing with me? This kid? I can kill him with a puff of my breath. And you want to introduce him to me?" As he spoke, the young man turned to leave. This kid is going to be unlucky. Huang Shi and the other three were not in a hurry. On the contrary, a strange smile appeared on their faces. In the past few days, they had recruited many people from Murongyu. Those people had the same reaction when they saw Murongyu. But in the end, didn't they obediently become slaves? Murongyu, who had been silent all this time, took a step forward and said indifferently, "I don't know if you can really kill me with a puff of your breath, but I know that I can kill you with a punch." As he spoke, Murongyu directly attacked. "You want to kill me with a punch?" Du Yuanzhou laughed loudly. In his heart, he felt that Murongyu must have a problem with his brain. However, his smile soon froze. In fact, there was even a trace of graveness in his eyes, which then turned into an aura of fear. This was because Murongyu's fist had given him an extremely strong aura of death. Boom! Du Yuanzhou made his move and threw out a punch as well. After the earth-shattering explosion, Du Yuanzhou let out a miserable cry. His entire arm was blasted into a bloody mist by Murongyu, and his entire body was blasted away like a broken rag doll. Bang! Just as he was sent flying, Murongyu took another step forward. In the void, he viciously stomped on Du Yuanzhou's chest. Before Du Yuanzhou could react, he had already been stomped into the ground. After sealing Du Yuanzhou's power, Murongyu looked at Du Yuanzhou with a smile. "Tell me, can I kill you with one punch?" Du Yuanzhou looked at Murongyu in shock and fear. His lips trembled slightly, but no sound came out. He seemed to be frightened by Murongyu. Du Yuanzhou was indeed frightened by Murongyu. He did not know that Murongyu was so powerful. He was only an ancient sage. Could it be that the primal chaos ancestor sage was hiding his strength? Du Yuanzhou smiled bitterly. "Senior, I was blind and looked down on you. I hope you can let me go." "Well said." Murongyu smiled. "It's not that I can't let you go, but you have to become my slave." Du Yuanzhou was relieved at first, but when he heard the second half of Murongyu's sentence, he frowned. "Du Yuanzhou, don't be in a hurry to reject me. As a friend, I'm taking care of you. What do you think this is?" Huang Shi walked over and grabbed at the air with his hand. A saint artifact emitting a powerful aura appeared in his hand. "Take care of your ass. Is this how you take care of your friends?" Du Yuanzhou almost cursed it out loud. However, he soon saw the chaos ancestral artifact in Huang Shi's hand. That was not all. Old Yuan and Old Han each had a chaos ancestral artifact. Du Yuanzhou's eyes widened. "How did you get these chaos ancestral artifacts?" Huang Shi smiled faintly. "Of course they were bestowed by the holy leader. Otherwise, do you think we could have gotten 4 chaos ancestral artifacts?" Du Yuanzhou fell silent. At this moment, Murongyu had already released the foot that was pressing down on him. In fact, he had even removed the seal on his power. Because of his boldness, Murongyu was not afraid that Du Yuanzhou would kill him. Murongyu was confident in his ability to do so. "Du Yuanzhou, don't blame us for not taking care of you. There are many benefits to following the holy leader. As a wandering cultivator, you'll reach the peak of ancestral sage in this lifetime. Huang Shi and the others advised Du Yuanzhou. Morongyu did not speak. He could have directly controlled Du Yuanzhou's soul. However, it was better to force them to come willingly. If they came willingly, they would be more proactive in doing things in the future. After a long time, Du Yuanzhou sighed and let go of his soul, allowing Morongyu to control it. He also wanted a Chaos Ancestral Artifact and a Chaos Ancestral Sage. However, he also knew that if he relied on himself, all of these were just fleeting clouds. He would never be able to obtain them in his lifetime. After becoming Morongyu's slave, Du Yuanzhou discovered that there were more than 10 people in front of him besides Huang Shi and the other 3. All of them were peak ancestral sage existences. However, apart from the 4 at the beginning, none of the others who became Morongyu's slaves had obtained a Chaos Ancestral Artifact. After all, Morongyu had a limited number of Chaos Ancestral Artifacts. He still had to keep some for his own breakthrough. My lord, on my way here, I encountered a Chaos Ancestral Sage, Wandering Cultivator, Master Blood Demon. Master Blood Demon. Before Morongyu could react, Huang Shi and the other 3's expressions changed slightly. They seemed to have some misgivings about Master Blood Demon. Morongyu hurriedly asked, My lord, Master Blood Demon is a rank 2 Chaos Ancestral Sage and is extremely powerful. He's also extremely bloodthirsty and once massacred 81 cities in one night. He's a wanted criminal in many holy empires. However, because he's powerful and good at concealing himself, he's still alive and well even though he's wanted. Morongyu frowned slightly. Although he wanted to control many peerless experts, he didn't care about ordinary people. However, it was fine if it was an ordinary person. There was no distinction between good and bad people. At their level, who didn't have a few lives on their hands. However, Master Blood Demon was too evil. He massacred 81 cities in one night. How many people did he kill in one night? Moreover, he didn't just kill people in the 81 cities. What about others? It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that he was full of evil. Morongyu also felt conflicted about such a person. He would rather kill him than take him as a slave. My lord, Master Blood Demon is extremely powerful. Although he's only a rank 2 Chaos Ancestral Sage, I heard that he has the strength of a rank 4 Chaos Ancestral Sage. Not only is he good at concealing himself, but he's also good at assassination. He's the King of Darkness, Du Yuanzhou added. The stronger one was, the more difficult it was to kill enemies of a higher level. Master Blood Demon was indeed very powerful to be able to fight across 2 levels. My lord, there's no distinction between good and bad weapons. In the wrong hands, it's a butcher's knife. However, in the right hands, it's a peerless weapon, Old Yuan said. Morongyu pondered for a moment and felt that Old Yuan's words made sense. After all, if he controlled Master Blood Demon, he wouldn't be able to continue doing evil. Moreover, he would be able to do things for him. It was much better than killing him directly. Since that's the case, let's go meet this Master Blood Demon. Morongyu smiled, then soared into the sky and flew towards Master Blood Demon. Ha! Trash like you dare to kill me? You're overestimating yourselves. Not far from Morongyu, a bald-headed middle-aged man with a fiendish look smashed an enemy into meat paste with a slap and then laughed loudly. At his feet, there are dozens of irregular pieces of flesh lying in a disorderly manner. Blood flowed like a river, and the pungent smell of blood enveloped the area. No one knew how many people he had killed. His face was covered in blood, and when he laughed, he looked ferocious and extremely terrifying. This man was Master Blood Demon. You bastards have seen enough. Why don't you come out? After laughing loudly 3 times, Master Blood Demon looked at the place where Morongyu and the others were hiding. They were discovered. Morongyu could only slowly walk out from his hiding place. However, his face was calm and there was no trace of fear. You're also here to kill me? However, it doesn't matter. You can all die together. Master Blood Demon sneered and made his move. A large palm came crashing down on Morongyu's group of 6. How dare you? Huang Shi roared and attacked with Du Yuan Zhou and the others at the same time, attacking Master Blood Demon. Boom! Boom! In a flash, Huang Shi and the others let out miserable cries and were sent flying like broken rag dolls. The 5 of them couldn't block Master Blood Demon's punch. However, Master Blood Demon's fist was also blocked. Trash! Master Blood Demon snorted disdainfully. He took a step forward and was about to attack again. Huang Shi and the others were furious, especially the 4 brothers. With a thought, they were about to take out the primal chaos ancestral artifact. However, they were stopped by Muronyu. I'll go test his strength. Saint Lord, Huang Shi and the others showed worry in their eyes. Master Blood Demon was really too powerful. They had no confidence in Muronyu. Most importantly, if Muronyu was killed, they would also die. He can't kill me yet. Muronyu indifferently said as he took a step forward and threw a punch at his opponent. Brat, you're too arrogant. Master Blood Demon was furious. He felt that he was being looked down on by Muronyu. He was a second-rank ancestor saint. Although his realm was suppressed, he wasn't someone that could be defeated by an ant. As for those who looked down on him, he would let them all die. Chapter 1545. Boom! The 2 of them quickly exchanged a blow. After the earth-shattering explosion, a terrifying shockwave swept out in all directions like a tidal wave. Wherever it passed, large patches of the void were shattered. At the same time, a black shadow flew out at a speed faster than when it came. Thud, thud, thud. Master Blood Demon was sent flying. He took a few steps forward in the void, trampling through billions of space-time before finally coming to a halt. Impossible. Master Blood Demon swung his numb hands, his eyes filled with shock. He was confident that he was extremely powerful. In this Mountain Sea mystic realm, where cultivation levels were suppressed, his strength was definitely ranked at the top. However, he also knew that he was not invincible. There would definitely be people who could defeat him in the Mountain Sea secret realm. However, that person was definitely not just an ancient sage. At the very least, they had to be at the Ancestor Saint realm. And Muronyu was still 2 great realms away from the Ancestor Sage realm. What shocked Master Blood Demon the most was that even though he was sent flying, Muronyu didn't move at all. He was like an ancient sacred mountain standing in place. From this, it could be seen how big the gap between the 2 was. Master Blood Demon, you're no match for me. Submit to me. Muronyu smiled as he looked at the shocked Master Blood Demon in the distance. However, Muronyu was also a little surprised. Master Blood Demon was the strongest person he had ever met in the Mountain Sea secret realm. He was much stronger than Senile. However, he was still no match for Muronyu. Over the past few days, Muronyu had been constantly battling with some ancestral sages. However, his combat strength was getting stronger and stronger. Compared to when he first entered the Mountain Sea secret realm, he had snatched at least 30 to 40%. Muronyu estimated that Master Blood Demon was on par with him when he had just entered the Mountain Sea secret realm. There might even be a gap. You want to subdue me? In your dreams. Master Blood Demon roared out furiously. With a single stomp, he crushed through billions of space-times. In the blink of an eye, he crossed through billions of space-times and charged towards Muronyu. Then, he threw out a punch. Since you won't submit, then I'll beat you until you do. Muronyu laughed loudly. He also took a step forward to meet Master Blood Demon. In the beginning, Muronyu did not use Time Freeze, God's Descent, or Soul Attack. In this Mountain Sea mystic realm, where cultivation levels were suppressed, these moves were definitely powerful killing moves. Almost no one could block them, because Muronyu didn't want the battle to end so quickly. Fighting against a powerful opponent like Master Blood Demon and having such a powerful opponent as a sparring partner would have a very good effect on Muronyu's battle strength. However, Master Blood Demon quickly discovered Muronyu's intentions and immediately roared angrily. However, he was entangled by Muronyu and was unable to break free. In truth, Master Blood Demon could use his own magic treasures or sacred weapons. Although he was bloodthirsty, he was still a man with dignity. Moreover, his dignity was very strong. Originally, he was 3 levels higher than Muronyu, but he was sent flying by Muronyu's punch. He felt humiliated and humiliated. If he used sacred weapons or magic treasures, even if he defeated Muronyu, he would still feel embarrassed. Moreover, what if he couldn't defeat Muronyu? In that case, he would lose all his face. Therefore, he wanted to use his fists to beat Muronyu to death. He wanted to beat this humiliation away. In the beginning, it was still okay. Master Blood Demon was only at a disadvantage. However, as the battle became longer and longer, he was not only at a disadvantage, but also suppressed by Muronyu. In the end, he only had the strength to resist, but not the strength to fight back. He was completely beaten by Muronyu like a sandbag. Muronyu's battle strength was stronger than Master Blood Demon's, and his speed was also faster. This wasn't what made Master Blood Demon the most depressed. What made him the most depressed was that Muronyu's battle experience was even richer than his. After fighting back and forth, Master Blood Demon was about to vomit blood. His expression was malevolent, and he continuously roared and attacked. However, this didn't help him defeat Muronyu. Master Blood Demon, are you still not going to submit? Muronyu sent Master Blood Demon flying with a punch. He didn't know how many times he asked. Oomph. Master Blood Demon only snorted coldly, but didn't say anything. Then he pounced on Muronyu. Want him to submit? That was impossible. Since that's the case, I can only force you to submit. Muronyu's eyes were cold, because at this time, the battle with Master Blood Demon didn't allow him to improve much. Moreover, Muronyu didn't want to waste too much time on Master Blood Demon. Time Chaos, God's Descent, Time Freeze, Soul Slash. With a cold snort, Muronyu took a step forward and used the most powerful move in the Mountain Sea Secret Realm. At this moment, Master Blood Demon's heart was enveloped by an incomparably strong aura of death. His rich battle experience allowed him to retreat immediately. At the same time, an incomparably huge power surged into his soul space, enveloping it. If they were in the outside world, Muronyu's soul attack might not be able to do anything to his soul. However, this was the Mountain Sea Secret Realm, and Master Blood Demon's realm was suppressed to the peak of the Ancestor Saint realm. Therefore, the power he could mobilize was only at the peak of the Ancestor Saint realm. First, it was chaos, then it was frozen, and his mind was lost. At this moment, Muronyu's soul attack had already ruthlessly slashed on his soul. Master Blood Demon immediately suffered a tragedy. His soul was almost shattered, and his body was shattered by Muronyu's punch. In the end, all that was left was a dizzy soul that had been slashed. Before Master Blood Demon could react, his soul was already taken by Muronyu into the Hichu Luo Shu. That's it. Huang Shi, Du Yuan Zhou, and the others watched from outside, their faces full of disbelief. The battle between Muronyu and Master Blood Demon had benefited them a lot. But what shocked them was that Muronyu had defeated Master Blood Demon so quickly. This incomparably powerful peerless expert was actually defeated by Muronyu without even having the strength to fight back. After entering the Hichu Luo Shu, Muronyu immediately suppressed Master Blood Demon's soul. After forcibly controlling his soul, Muronyu released Master Blood Demon suppression. Master Blood Demon quickly recovered his physical body and came in front of Muronyu, bowing respectfully. Holy Lord! Master Blood Demon was extremely unwilling in his heart, but now he had no choice. His soul was controlled by Muronyu. What else could he do? Even if he was unwilling, he had to be willing. And in the future, he had to act in the interests of Muronyu and protect Muronyu at all times. Because if Muronyu died, he would die with him. He didn't want to die. Holy Lord's strength shouldn't be weak. If his realm was higher, his strength would definitely surpass mine. Maybe he would really become a primal chaos controller in the future. Following a primal chaos controller is also shameful. Master Blood Demon quickly comforted himself. Master Blood Demon, you are now my man. I don't need to teach you what to do in the future, right? Master Blood Demon hurriedly lowered his head and respectfully said, I know. In the future, I will do my best to assist Holy Lord, and I won't kill the innocent anymore. Muronyu nodded, and then left the Hichu Luo Shu with Master Blood Demon. Next, Muronyu and the others continued to move. The news of a supreme weapon appearing in the Mountain Sea secret realm had already spread throughout the Holy World. A large number of experts swarmed into the Mountain Sea secret realm. Naturally, many of them were independent cultivators. Half a year later, the number of ancestor sages under Murongyu's control had exceeded 500. However, there were only 10 ancestor sages in the primal chaos. Although a few of them had a higher realm than Master Blood Demon, their battle prowess was inferior. With Murongyu and Master Blood Demon working together, these peerless experts were captured by Murongyu before they could even react. With 10 ancestor sages, in just half a year, Shenzhen went from a mediocre force to a mid-sized force in the Holy World. It had already surpassed forces like the Holy Kingdom of Ninein. However, in order to become a large force, Shenzhen had to have 100 ancestor sages in the primal chaos. 100 ancestor sages in the Holy World wasn't considered a lot. However, there were very few ancestor sages in the primal chaos who were independent cultivators. Moreover, Murongyu had only encountered 10 people in the past 6 months. One of them was Master Blood Demon. Among the experts at the primal chaos ancestor saint level, 999 out of 1,000 primal chaos ancestor saints were experts from various major powers. There was only one person who was a rogue cultivator. The ratio was almost 1,000 to 1. In the Mountain Sea secret realm, the ratio was even greater. There might not even be one independent cultivator among the thousands of ancestor sages. Therefore, Murongyu had only subdued 10 peerless experts. As for the ancestor sages in the primal chaos, it wasn't that Murongyu didn't want to subdue them. It was just that it was too troublesome. Those experts had their own families, relatives, and friends. If Murongyu subdued them, their forces would definitely attack their families, relatives, and friends. That would involve too much, and it wasn't what Murongyu wanted. On this day, Murongyu and Master Blood Demon were searching for targets in the Mountain Sea secret realm. But suddenly, boom, an earth-shattering sound came from the depths of the Mountain Sea secret realm. Then, Murongyu saw a burst of dazzling 5-colored light rising from the depths of the Mountain Sea secret realm, and finally enveloped the entire Mountain Sea secret realm. At the same time, a terrifying pressure came down from all directions, suppressing all the worlds. Master Blood Demon's expression changed. Oh no, my realm has been suppressed again. Now I'm only at the peak of the Holy King realm. Murongyu was shocked and hurriedly looked into the depths of the secret realm of deepest sea. Amidst the dazzling multicolored light, Murongyu saw an incomparably huge ancient book slowly rise into the air. A supreme weapon. Murongyu cried out. At the same time, everyone in the Mountain Sea secret realm also saw the ancient book. Chapter 1546. This ancient book should be the supreme treasure in the depths of the Mountain Sea mystery realm. The supreme treasure had finally appeared. The terrifying pressure of the supreme treasure instantly suppressed the entire Mountain Sea mystery realm. Those who were weak did not feel much, but those primal chaos ancestral sages and even ancestral sages felt more uncomfortable. Because with the appearance of the supreme treasure, their cultivation level was suppressed again. Originally, they were only suppressed to the ancestral sage realm. Now it was even worse. They could not even maintain the ancestral sage realm, and the highest cultivation level could only reach the peak of the Sage King realm. Their cultivation level was suppressed again, which also affected the combat power of those peerless experts. However, it was even more advantageous for Murongyu and the others. Originally, although their cultivation level was suppressed to the ancestral sage realm, there were still many experts fighting for the supreme treasure. Those sages at the Sage King realm or below did not have the ability to fight for it. But now it was different. Sage Kings and ancient sages had the possibility to fight. This was good news for them, and also good news for Murongyu, because his cultivation level, and combat power were not suppressed at all. Under this situation, Murong Yu's strength was even stronger. Their cultivation level was suppressed, which made the primal chaos ancestral sages very unhappy. But what made them heave a sigh of relief was that although the power of the supreme treasure was terrifying, it was still very peaceful. But it seemed to be very peaceful. It was just that their cultivation levels were suppressed. It did not kill them. As a result, no one had been killed by the supreme weapon since its appearance. Of course, some people took advantage of their opponent's cultivation level being suppressed to sneak attack and kill them. However, these were all superficial things. After the appearance of the supreme treasure, some changes were secretly discovered in the Mountain Sea Mystery Realm. For example, the Mountain Sea Mystery Realm suddenly became bigger, more than 10 times bigger than before. This size had already surpassed the Yin Huang Immortal Realm. Moreover, the void of the Mountain Sea Mystery Realm was also strengthened. Even a Sage King Realm expert could not break the void with a punch. However, no one noticed this for the time being because everyone was attracted by the ancient book. Shuemo, let's hurry over. Murong Yu instantly moved. He unfolded his body and flew towards the ancient book. However, he soon came to a halt. This was because Master Blood Demon's speed was simply too slow. Perhaps it was because it was still unable to adapt to the fact that its strength had been suppressed by 2 realms in a row. It was a little wobbly as it flew in the air, as if it would fall at any time. This was a crucial moment in the fight for the supreme weapon. How could he drop the ball? With Master Blood Demon's speed, by the time he arrived, the supreme weapon might have already been controlled by someone else. Thus, Murong Yu directly stored Master Blood Demon into the Hichu Luo Shu. Then, he flew towards the supreme weapon. Strange, why did the distance become longer? Murong Yu had a trace of doubt in his heart as he flew. This was because if it had been like before, he would have already rushed to the mountain range in the depths of the Mountain Sea Secret Realm. However, there wasn't even a mountain range in sight. Furthermore, his speed was not suppressed. Could it be that the Mountain Sea Mystery Realm has grown bigger? Murong Yu thought to himself, but his speed did not change. He continued to fly forward. Not long after, he finally arrived in front of the mountain range. What a big book! Looking at the ancient book floating in the sky, emitting 5-colored holy light and covering half of the sky, Murong Yu could not help but exclaim. The Mountain Sea Scripture. 3 ancient and vicissitudes of life appeared on the book, shining brightly. This should be the name of this supreme weapon. Rumble. When Murong Yu appeared here, many experts had already surrounded him. One by one, the experts stretched out their big hands or directly rushed towards the book. However, without exception, their attacks or physical bodies could not get close to the Mountain Sea Scripture at all. The surface of the Mountain Sea Scripture was blocked by a layer of incomparably powerful force. It prevented anyone from collecting it. Hichu, do you know what level this supreme weapon is? Why is it a book? Murong Yu asked Hichu Luoshu in his mind. Even supreme weapons were not the same. Even supreme weapons had differences in strength. It was the same for the strength of supreme weapons. This supreme weapon gave Murong Yu an extremely powerful feeling. It seemed to be even more powerful than his Purple Radiance Heavenly Rhoda. It should be of a higher level than the Purple Radiance Heavenly Rhoda. If the Purple Radiance Heavenly Rhoda is only a first-grade supreme weapon, then the Mountain Sea Scripture is at least a third-grade one, Hichu said. Although he had never seen a supreme weapon before, he could roughly distinguish it with his knowledge. Since he had never seen one before, he naturally did not know how to collect it. In other words, whether Murong Yu could collect this Mountain Sea Scripture depended on whether he had the luck and strength to do so. Boom! Murong Yu also made a strong move, stretching out his big hand and grabbing at the Mountain Sea Scripture. Swoosh! The moment Murong Yu made a move, many people's eyes were focused on him, full of disdain. Even those Chaos Ancestor saints could not get close to the Mountain Sea Scripture. Murong Yu, who is only in the Ancient Saint realm, dare to collect it? Murong Yu did not want to cause unnecessary trouble, so he had changed his appearance. So now, no one recognized his identity. Like the others, when Murong Yu's big hand of strength reached a certain distance from the mountain sea scripture, he felt that his big hand of strength was blocked. Then, no matter how hard he tried, the big hand of strength could not move an inch. Seeing Murong Yu frown slightly, an expert beside him sneered and said, "Boy, have you already collected the mountain sea scripture?" Murong Yu glanced at him indifferently. Why were there so many brainless bastards in this world? He did not provoke them at all. Okay. Looking away, Murong Yu took a step forward, turned into a stream of light, and rushed toward the mountain sea scripture. "You're overestimating yourself, aren't you?" The person who had mocked Murong Yu earlier snorted disdainfully. He could not enter. It wasn't a formation or restriction. Instead, it was an extremely powerful force that had sealed off this area of the void. "I wonder if I can break through this force if I use the purple light heavenly sieve tower." Murong Yu wondered. However, before he could make a decision, he heard a loud shout. "Unrelated people, quickly retreat. This place has been reserved by the Void Palace. If you don't leave, you'll be an enemy of the Void Palace." Hearing this, many forces near the mountain range could not help but look angry. However, many people still chose to retreat without hesitation. Although the Void Palace was not one of the 10 great sacred lands, it was still extremely powerful. It was a peak force on the same level as the heaven-suppressing sect. There were at least 10,000 primal chaos ancestral saints in the force. This was not something that ordinary forces dared to provoke. Most people retreated. There was still a group of people who did not retreat. Some were disciples of the same force, and some were disciples of the sacred lands. There were also people like Murong Yu who did not have a large force behind them, but were very powerful. Strictly speaking, Murong Yu was a disciple of the Infernal Society, a disciple of one of the 10 great sacred lands. He was not someone without a backer. However, Murong Yu did not rely on the Infernal Society's power. "You're courting death." Seeing that there were still some people who did not retreat, a young man in the void could not help but shout with murderous intent in his eyes. He took a step forward and threw a punch at one of the men. The man looked at the young man calmly and said, "Is the Void Palace invincible?" As he spoke, he grabbed at the air, and in the next moment, a golden token appeared in his hand. A disciple of the Heavenly King Palace. Seeing this, the young man who attacked was immediately stunned and immediately withdrew his attack. Although he was unwilling, he did not dare to openly kill a disciple of the Heavenly King Palace, one of the 10 great sacred lands. Once the Heavenly King Palace was enraged, although the Void Palace was powerful, they were not as powerful as the Heavenly King Palace. Of course, if they could obtain this supreme weapon, they would have the ability to fight against the Heavenly King Palace. Perhaps the human race would have another sacred land. So, it's a senior from the Heavenly King Palace. It's a misunderstanding. The young man quickly smiled and apologized. "Oof. Do I have the right to be here now?" The disciple of the Heavenly King Palace snorted coldly. "Of course you have a right." The young man from the Void Palace smiled and retreated. Then, he glared fiercely at the others, bullying the weak and fearing the strong. Seeing the young man's behavior, many sages in the distance were furious. The disciple of the Heavenly King Palace was only in the ancient sage realm, while the young man who attacked should be in the ancestor sage realm. However, he cowered without any backbone. This also showed how powerful a strong backer was. Perhaps they did not want to cause trouble, but when they saw the young man looking over, they all flashed their identity tokens one by one. Other than the disciples of the Infernal Society, the other disciples of the 9 great sacred lands were present. There were also some disciples of forces that were not inferior to the Void Palace. These were all tough bones that could not be gnawed on. The young man was extremely depressed. In the end, he looked at Murong Yu. Only Murong Yu did not show his identity token. Moreover, he looked calm and did not look nervous at all. Since he did not show his identity token, there were only 2 possibilities. One was that Murong Yu was not from any powerful forces. Instead, his strength was extremely terrifying. However, the young man did not think so. No matter how he looked at it, Murong Yu was only in the ancient sage realm. Therefore, the young man attacked without another word. With a boom, He threw a punch at Murong-yu. A cold light flashed through Murong-yu's eyes. "You're courting death." He took a step forward and instantly traversed billions of miles of space to appear in front of the young man. Then, he reached out and grabbed the young man's neck before he could react. Then, he lifted the young man up like a dead chicken. "Do you think you can do whatever you want just because you're a disciple of the Void Palace?" Murong-yu glanced coolly at the young man, then looked at the group of people from the Void Palace. Chapter 1547. Let him go. Murong-yu's actions were too fast. Even when the young man was caught, the people from Void Palace had yet to react. It wasn't until Murong-yu's words were spoken that they finally reacted. Then, their expressions were furious. They slowly closed in on Murong-yu with murderous intent. "What if I don't let him go?" Murong-yu did not care about their threats at all. He still said calmly, "If you don't let him go, you'll die." A peak saint ruler. It was unknown whether he was an ancestral saint or a primal chaos ancestral saint before his realm was suppressed. In any case, he was just a saint ruler now. He looked coldly at Murong-yu. It seemed that if Murong-yu did not let him go, he would attack and kill Murong-yu. "Are you threatening me?" Murong-yu's face darkened instantly. A cold, murderous intent flashed between his brows. "Little bastard, if you dare touch a hair of mine, there will be no place for you in the holy world in the future." The young man who was caught by Murong-yu finally reacted. He roared at Murong-yu with a ferocious expression. Murong-yu chuckled coldly. "The Void Hall is truly powerful. It's even more impressive than the 10 great holy lands. I've really learned something today." Hearing Murong-yu's words, the faces of the disciples from the 9 great holy lands darkened. They looked unkindly at the disciples from Void Palace. Murong-yu's words had successfully aroused the displeasure in their hearts. After all, a powerful force like Void Palace had always been the enemy of the 10 great holy lands. They would always attack these sects openly and covertly. They were afraid that they would become holy lands one day. Void Palace is not one of the 10 great holy lands. Naturally, we are not as impressive as them. However, Void Palace is not to be trifled with. "Kid, I advise you to let him go. Otherwise, even if you run to the ends of the earth, we will hunt you down until you die." "Little bastard, let me go." The young man in Murong-yu's grasp also shouted out. A smile flashed across Murong-yu's face. "Do you know what I hate the most in my life? I hate threats the most." At this point, Murong-yu's face instantly turned cold. At the same time, he clenched his fist. Bang! The young man in Murong-yu's hand was immediately crushed, and even his soul turned into a bloody mist. He really dared to kill a disciple of Void Palace. Who was he? How could he be so audacious? He even dared to kill a disciple of the Void Palace? Aside from Murong-yu, everyone else was shocked at the sight of this. "How dare you kill our people? Die for me." The people of Void Palace were stunned at first. Then someone roared angrily. Then they began to attack. However, although these people's realms were very high, their combat power was too tragic. The power of his attack had only struck the afterimage that Murong-yu had left behind in his original position. Bang! 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 Murong-yu took a step forward and teleported into the midst of the disciples of Void Palace, attacking aggressively. Time Confusion, Time Freeze, Soul Attack, and other unique skills were all used by him. Originally, the difference in combat power between the two sides was huge. Now, the people of Void Palace were no match for Murong-yu. It was almost one punch per person. The people of Void Palace did not even have time to react before they were blown up by Murong-yu. They turned into bloody mists and disappeared between heaven and earth. They cannot be more dead. In a short period of time, the number of disciples of Void Palace who died at the hands of Murong-yu reached a dozen. The disciples of Void Palace who were originally domineering here were all killed by him. No one even managed to escape. All of them had been slaughtered by Murong-yu. Who is this guy? How can he be so fierce? Seeing this scene, the people around were even more shocked. In fact, each and every one of them looked at Murong-yu with a trace of fear in their eyes. Pity the people of Void Palace. Many of them are experts in the chaotic ancestor saint realm, right? They were actually killed by an ancient saint. Their deaths are too unjust and too cowardly. Someone sighed and said, "Pity my ass. It's best that these bastards are dead. I just don't know if the others will clear the place." Someone looked at Murong Yu and the people of the 9 holy lands with a worried look. When the people of Void Palace were killed by Murong Yu, they clapped their hands and cheered. However, they were worried that Murong Yu would do the same. This guy's strength is comparable to Murong Yu's. No, Murong Yu is also an ancient saint. His combat power is also extremely terrifying. Could he be Murong Yu? Someone suddenly came to a realization. Is he really Murong Yu? How dare he appear here? Someone kept looking at Murong Yu with an incredulous expression. Why wouldn't he dare? He is bold because of his skills. And didn't you see his strength? As long as you are in the Mountain Sea secret realm, who dares to say that they are stronger than Murong Yu? And I heard that his speed is unparalleled in the world. Even if you can't beat him, you can still escape. Listening to the discussion around him, he smiled in his heart. Immediately, his face began to change. It didn't take long for him to return to his original appearance. In any case, these people had already guessed his identity. There was no need to hide it anymore. It's really Murong Yu. Seeing Murong Yu's appearance, the people around couldn't help but exclaim. At this moment, Murong Yu's gaze was looking ahead at the people of True Martial Temple. "Murong Yu, what do you want to do?" An expert of True Martial Temple swallowed his saliva and said in a deep voice. Murong Yu slowly walked towards the disciples of True Martial Temple. "What do I want to do? You should know very well." A hint of fear flashed across the eyes of the people of True Martial Temple. If they were in the outside world, they wouldn't be afraid of Murong Yu at all. But here, their realms were suppressed, and their combat power wasn't strong. If Murong Yu made a move, they wouldn't be a match for him at all. The people of Void Palace were examples. "Well, actually, I don't want to do anything. I just want to invite you to my spatial treasure as guests. By the way, you should be very familiar with that spatial treasure. It's Hichu Luoshu. Didn't you all have this idea?" Murong Yu slowly walked towards the people of True Martial Temple with a smile on his face. The people of True Martial Temple had ugly expressions. Murong Yu wasn't inviting them to be guests. He clearly wanted to imprison them. As disciples of one of the 10 great holy lands, how could they allow themselves to be captured without a fight? Not only would they lose face, but they would also lose face for True Martial Temple. "Everyone, let's attack together and kill him." Suddenly, a powerhouse from the True Martial Temple roared. Then, dozens of people of True Martial Temple attacked. In an instant, a heaven-rending, earth-shattering power surged towards Murong Yu, intending to kill him. Murong Yu's face darkened. "You really don't want to do it the hard way. You're really despicable." As he spoke, he disappeared on the spot. Time chaos, time freeze, God's descent, heavenly annihilation. In an instant, Murong Yu blasted out many big moves. Under the violent attacks, the people of True Martial Temple were instantly in chaos. Then, they saw Murong Yu directly appear in the crowd of True Martial Temple disciples. The massacre began again. However, unlike the people of Void Palace, Murong Yu didn't kill them. He only knocked out the disciples of True Martial Temple with a punch. Then, he threw them in a Hichu Luoshu one by one. Among them, there were also some peerless experts at the level of Primal Chaos Ancestral Saints. It's over, it's over. This Mountain Sea secret realm is simply tailor-made for Murong Yu. He's getting stronger and stronger here, and the others are getting weaker and weaker. No one is a match for Murong Yu. This thought appeared in many people's minds, and they all revealed bitter smiles. Indeed, after their realms were suppressed to the Saint King realm, those people became even weaker. On the contrary, it seemed that Murong Yu had become even stronger. In the past, Murong Yu would have to use some tricks to take down those Primal Chaos Ancestral Saints. But now, he could basically kill them with a single punch. It was as easy as flipping his hand. Who else wants me, Hichu Luoshu, to be a guest? I forgot to mention that it's a world of its own. The space inside is huge. Morongyu glanced at the people around him and said with a smile. However, anyone who met Murongyu's gaze couldn't help but take a few steps back. What a joke! Who wanted to be a guest? Wasn't that looking for trouble? Don't provoke this lunatic. At least in the Mountain Sea secret realm, don't provoke him. Many seniors warned the juniors and themselves. Of course, it was another matter after leaving the Mountain Sea secret realm. At that time, there would definitely be many experts who would be willing to cause trouble for Murongyu. No, if not, then forget it. For the rest of the time, I don't want to be disturbed. If anyone disturbs me, True Martial Temple and Void Palace will be examples. Of course, I won't monopolize this supreme artifact. Only the virtuous can have it. Murongyu said indifferently, and then flew into the sky to study the Mountain Sea scripture. Is what Murongyu said true? Others can also try to collect the supreme artifact? Everyone looked at each other, but no one immediately went forward to try to collect the Mountain Sea scripture. They were still skeptical. Even the people from the 8 great holy lands were the same. Forget it, if I die, then so be it. Maybe I can really get the supreme artifact. After a long time, a rogue cultivator gritted his teeth and decided. Then, he turned into a stream of light and rushed up. In an instant, he was close to the Mountain Sea scripture until he couldn't go any further. I wonder if Murongyu will make a move. Almost everyone's eyes were focused on Murongyu and the rogue cultivator. However, Murongyu didn't make a move, as if he really didn't mind. Murongyu really didn't mind, and he didn't mind at all, although his battle strength was strong and intimidating these people. However, it was impossible to subdue all of them. Instead of that, it was better to let them try to collect the supreme artifact. That way, they wouldn't gang up on him. It was good for everyone. Murongyu really didn't make a move. I'll go too. After confirming that Murongyu didn't make a move, the others rushed up. Chapter 1548. Thus, a harmonious scene appeared. Everyone began to try to collect the Mountain and Sea scripture, and they didn't attack each other. However, Murongyu didn't stop them, but they didn't dare to get too close to Murongyu. No one could be sure that Murongyu wouldn't suddenly go crazy and kill them. This time, a large empty space appeared beside Murongyu. The other places were crowded with people, and it was extremely crowded. Murongyu was quite satisfied with this. However, he was dissatisfied that the Mountain and Sea scripture didn't move at all. No matter what method he used, he couldn't get even half a step closer to the Mountain and Sea scripture. Do I really have to use the supreme weapon? Murongyu pondered, hesitating. After a while, Murongyu's expression became resolute. Forget it. Now that even the sovereigns are coveting my body and the Hichu, Luoshu, even if the news that I have a supreme weapon is exposed, it won't be too serious. Murongyu is now the enemy of the entire world. Even if the news of the supreme weapon was exposed, it wouldn't be too serious. Could there be an existence above the sovereigns? Murongyu didn't believe it, because there had always been a rumor that the sovereigns were the strongest in the holy world. However, apart from this, Murongyu had another worry. If he used the supreme weapon, the purple heavenly Civ Pagoda, then his strength would be sucked dry in an instant. In this Mountain and Sea secret realm, where so many enemies were feeding on him, Murongyu lost his strength, which meant that he didn't have powerful battle strength. Without battle strength, he would become a fish on the chopping board. The feeling of being at the mercy of others wasn't good. Furthermore, Murongyu also knew that once he lost the ability to fight, the people around him, who were previously intimidated by him, would definitely kill him at the first opportunity. Master Blood Demon. Murongyu's heart skipped a beat, and he let Master Blood Demon out of the Hichu Luoshu. As soon as Master Blood Demon appeared, the surrounding people cried out in surprise. Then, the people near Murongyu involuntarily retreated. It was as if he feared Master Blood Demon more than he feared Murongyu. Seeing everyone's reaction, Master Blood Demon grinned in satisfaction. However, everyone was so shocked that they retreated. Holy Master! The Blood Demon bowed respectfully to Murongyu. However, His appearance shocked everyone even more. From the looks of it, Master Blood Demon had submitted to Murong Yu. What did he mean by the murderous devil? The unruly Master Blood Demon had also been subdued by Murong Yu. If even Master Blood Demon had been subdued, then who else had Murong Yu subdued? Everyone's heart trembled. He could not help but reevaluate Murong Yu's strength. In the past, Murong Yu could be said to have been alone, even though he had the support of the Seamless Department. However, although the Seamless Department was powerful, they had too few people. They were basically unable to help Murong Yu. However, if Murong Yu had subdued a large number of exceptional experts, then these powers would have to think twice before making a move against Murong Yu. Blood Demon, I will temporarily give you a portion of the control of Hichu Luo Shu. Later, if my strength is sucked dry, you will immediately take me into Hichu Luo Shu. Murong Yu transmitted to Master Blood Demon. A portion of the control of Hichu Luo Shu could be temporarily handed over, allowing Master Blood Demon to temporarily possess a portion of the Hichu Luo Shu's power. Moreover, because Murong Yu had controlled Master Blood Demon's soul, Murong Yu was not worried that he would completely seize control of Hichu Luo Shu. Even if he did not control the soul, Master Blood Demon would not be able to take it away. Okay, Master Blood Demon replied and swept his gaze over the surrounding people. With this glance, he could not help but be shocked. If these people all attacked, just half a round of attacks would be enough to kill him. Immediately, Murong temporarily handed over a portion of the control of Hichu Luo Shu to Blood Demon. At the same time, he instructed Hichu to cooperate with Blood Demon. Finally, Murong Yu took out the supreme weapon, the Purple Light Heavenly Sieve Tower. Boom! A resplendent, five-colored light suddenly erupted from the Purple Light Heavenly Sieve Tower. In the blink of an eye, it spread out in all directions. In an instant, the five-colored holy light had already enveloped the entire Mountain Sea secret realm. A supreme weapon, another supreme being weapon, was born. Feeling the terrifying power of the supreme weapon, everyone in the Mountain Sea secret realm was stunned at first, then they all went crazy. However, the people around Murong Yu couldn't afford to go crazy. This was because they realized that the second supreme weapon was actually in Murong Yu's hands. It was Murong Yu's supreme weapon. Murong Yu actually has a supreme weapon. At the same time, the surrounding people were shocked, but at the same time, they were somewhat glad. They were glad that they did not directly confront Murong Yu. If Murong Yu took out this supreme weapon, even a high-level chaotic ancestor, Saint, would not be able to withstand his terrifying attack, right? Murong Yu did not care about what these people thought. If these people dared to take the opportunity to attack, he did not mind blasting them with the tower and killing them. Break! Murong Yu roared in his heart. The Purple Light Heavenly Sieve Tower had already turned into a five-colored holy light and blasted toward the Mountain Sea Scripture. Boom! After a shocking explosion, the Purple Light Heavenly Sieve Tower had already flown out. However, the Mountain Sea Scripture in the sky did not even sway. In fact, the power of the Mountain Sea Scripture was not even broken by Murong Yu. At this time, Murong Yu's power had been sucked dry by the Purple Light Heavenly Sieve Tower. Murong Yu's power has been completely depleted. Many people's eyes were focused on Murong Yu. Their eyes flickered as if they were about to attack. I can't break the power of the Mountain Sea Scripture. Murong Yu frowned slightly. With a thought, he had already put the Purple Light Heavenly Sieve Tower back in his body. At the same time, he stepped into the Hichu Luo Shu. Time acceleration. After entering the Hichu Luo Shu, Murong Yu began to accelerate time and began to recover his depleted power. After the power disappeared, he reappeared in the Mountain Sea secret realm. Everyone only saw Murong Yu's body shake. In the next moment, they saw that Murong Yu's depleted power had been restored. This speed, the surrounding people could not help but cry. This speed was too terrifying. How could they bear it? Murong Yu did not even give them a chance to attack. Even a supreme artifact can't break the power of the Mountain Sea Scripture. The Hichu Luo Shu, the Inyan Cauldron, and the others can't unleash their powerful power. It's even more impossible Moronyu muttered to himself as he raised his head to look at the huge, ancient book in the sky. In the next moment, the purple light heavenly sieve tower that he had put away in his body appeared again. However, this time, its power was not activated. It only transformed into a small tower that spun in Muronyu's palm. At the same time, he took out the Hichu Luoshu, the Inyang Cauldron, and even the Inyang Bow and the heaven-shaking arrow. These were all existences that surpassed supreme artifacts. If he could activate their power, Moronyu's strength will be one of the best in the holy world, even if he was not invincible. Mountain Sea Scripture. See, not only do I have supreme artifact, but I also have 3 treasures that are of a higher grade than supreme artifacts. Although you are powerful, you can't surpass the level of a supreme artifact, right? Moronyu transmitted his voice to the Mountain Sea Scripture. Fortunately, no one else heard him. Otherwise, he would definitely be laughed at. It was precisely because of this consideration that Moronyu chose to transmit his voice. Otherwise, if the Mountain Sea Scripture did not submit to him, it would be a joke. I have the chaotic celestial physique. Once I grow up, I could become a chaos controller. Control chaos. You might not believe it, but these treasures that surpass supreme artifacts have all submitted to me. You can think about what's going on. Are you willing to continue gathering dust here, or submit to a piece of trash and tarnish your reputation? Or do you want to create a miracle with me? Do you want to reach the peak of this world together? After transmitting his voice, Moronyu sat cross-legged in the void. He was not in a hurry. He waited for the Mountain Sea Scripture's response. Any supreme artifact would have an artifact spirit. Moronyu felt that the artifact spirit of the Mountain Sea Scripture could understand him. At this moment, countless people were trying to collect the Mountain Sea Scripture with their own methods. The Mountain Sea Scripture seems to have moved. Could it be that my method worked? After an expert struck out a handprint, he felt the Mountain Sea Scripture tremble slightly. Therefore, he thought that his handprint had worked, so he laughed out loud. Boom, boom, boom. However, before he could finish laughing, countless terrifying forces bombarded his body out of thin air. Then, there was no more then. The person was already dead. What kind of joke is this? Do you think you're qualified to collect the Mountain Sea Scripture? The person who attacked sneered. Seeing this scene, the surrounding people could not help but feel a chill in their hearts. Although it seemed calm on the surface, undercurrents were surging in the dark. Thus, everyone quieted down. Even if they sensed that the Mountain Sea Scripture had moved, they did not show it. They could only be arrogant after they had truly collected the Mountain Sea Scripture. At this moment, Moronyu's face revealed a smile. Because just a moment ago, an incomparably huge divine sense swept across his body. That divine consciousness carried a trace of the Mountain Sea Scripture's aura. It seemed that the Mountain Sea Scripture was scanning his body. His method was indeed effective. Mountain Sea Scripture, what I said is true. You should have already sensed it. What do you think? Do you want to reach the peak of this world with me? Moronyu continued to transmit his voice. However, the Mountain Sea Scripture did not continue. Moronyu was not in a hurry. He continued to sit cross-legged on the spot. He knew that the Mountain Sea Scripture would definitely say something else. Sure enough, not long after, a broken voice directly sounded in Moronyu's ears. I hope you are telling the truth. Perhaps it was because it had not communicated with anyone for a long time, or perhaps it was because the artifact spirit of the Mountain Sea Scripture had just been born, but it was not fluent when it spoke at first. It was almost speaking word by word. However, after a few words, it became fluent. Chapter 1549. Rumble. Suddenly, everyone in the Mountain Sea Secret Realm realized that the 5-colored holy light that had originally enveloped the entire Mountain Sea Secret Realm had retreated like a tide. In an instant, all of them had retreated back into the Mountain Sea Scripture. At the same time, the originally extremely terrifying supreme weapon pressure also disappeared. In an instant, the Mountain Sea Secret Realm returned to its original appearance. However, the realm of many sages was still suppressed to the peak of the Sage King realm. Whoosh! At the same time, The mountain sea scripture that was originally floating in the sky also shrank with a whoosh. Finally, it turned into a ray of five-colored holy light and rushed toward Murong Yu's side. Someone has successfully taken the mountain sea scripture. The people present were not idiots, although they were a little stunned by this series of changes. When they saw the appearance of the mountain sea scripture, how could they not know that the mountain sea scripture had been subdued by someone? Rumble, while this person was speaking, more people chose to make a move. One by one, they stretched out their big hands to grab the mountain sea scripture that was shooting down from the void. They tried to snatch the mountain sea scripture before it was subdued. In fact, many of them had simultaneously launched large-scale attacks at Murong Yu's location. It was obvious that the mountain and sea scripture had been shot at them because one of Murong Yu's people had subdued the mountain and sea scripture. Of course, the target of the attack was naturally Murong Yu's. With a whoosh, the mountain sea scripture traversed billions of space-time and appeared above Murong Yu's head. Then, without any hesitation, it entered Murong Yu's body from above Murong Yu's head. Those who stretched out their hands to grab the mountain sea scripture, wanting to subdue it, naturally failed. It's Murong Yu who has subdued the mountain sea scripture. Seeing this scene, everyone came to their senses. Then, a stormy wave of attacks followed. For a moment, the entire world was covered by a terrifying power. It carried a terrifying aura that could destroy heaven and earth as it came crashing down. Master Blood Demon's face was pale with fright. He could not help but want to escape. If this power came crashing down, even a peak ancestor sage would not be able to withstand it, let alone a peak sage king. However, this guy still remembered that he was Murong Yu's slave. After taking a step, he remembered that Murong Yu was still in the same place. Therefore, he turned around and stretched out his big hand to grab Murong Yu. Murong Yu wanted to leave this place with Murong Yu. However, Master Blood Demon saw that Murong Yu didn't have any fear or uneasiness on his face. Instead, he was smiling. Yes, it was a smile. I see. Murong Yu's words. After that, Master Blood Demon felt the scenery before his eyes change. In the next moment, he discovered that he had already appeared on the other side. Rumble, at this moment, the powers soared. A terrifying power erupted, instantly razing the place where Murong Yu had been standing to the ground. Master, 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 master. Masters, masters, masters. Then, he looked at Murong Yu. That was because the teleportation just now made him feel strange. It did not seem to be Murong Yu's power. Very good. You dare to attack me? Since that is the case, you can stay here as my guests. Suppress them. Murong Yu floated in the sky as he indifferently looked at the numerous saints that were charging over. Right now, Murong Yu had 2 supreme artifacts on him. He also had the Heat 2 and the inscription of Eluo, as well as his chaotic celestial body. He was full of treasures. Any one of them was enough to make people go crazy. Therefore, these people wanted to kill Murong Yu. In the face of such a huge temptation, Murong Yu's previous intimidation was no longer of any use. Kill. Hearing Murong Yu's words, these people showed disdain. Murong Yu's battle power was strong, very strong. However, no matter how strong he was, could he suppress so many of them? He could not even withstand a round of attacks, not to mention suppressing them. Therefore, they all thought that Murong Yu was just bragging. But soon, their expressions changed. Just as Murong Yu's voice fell, an inexplicable force appeared out of thin air. Under the suppression of this inexplicable force, their realms began to be suppressed. From the peak of the Sage King realm, they fell to the 8th stage Sage King realm, and then broke through the Sage King realm and fell to the Ancient Sage realm. This was not the end. After falling to the Ancient Sage realm, their realms were still falling rapidly. Profound Sage realm, Imperishable realm. In the end, most of them were suppressed to the Undead realm. There were even some people whose realms were not high to begin with, whose realms were suppressed to the Great Sage realm. However, there were also some powerful people who were only suppressed to the Imperishable realm. Except for Murong Yu's own people, No one else was in the profound sage realm or above. Feeling that their realms were suppressed to such a low level, the people in the Mountain Sea secret realm were shocked and frightened, especially the people not far in front of Murong-Yu. This was because they could see that Murong-Yu and Master Blood Demon's realms were not suppressed. On the contrary, Master Blood Demon's aura was monstrous, and he seemed to have recovered to the primal chaos ancestor realm. With Murong-Yu's current strength, killing them was definitely not much harder than crushing an ant. They did not understand what was going on. How could such a strange thing happen? Could it be related to the Mountain Sea scripture? Mountain Sea secret realm, Mountain Sea scripture. Could it be that the Mountain Sea scripture controls this Mountain Sea secret realm? If that's the case, some people's faces were gloomy as they pondered. However, even more people had already started flying toward the exit. Under such circumstances, staying in a Mountain Sea secret realm with such a low realm was definitely courting death. They all wanted to leave the Mountain Sea secret realm. As for Murong-Yu and the Supreme Artifact, they did not have the ability to seize it now. Who said you could leave? Whoever dares to take a step forward, I'll kill him, Murong-Yu said indifferently as he glanced at the hundreds of thousands of sages in front of him. In fact, there were definitely more people who entered the Mountain Sea secret realm. These people were all people who had just attacked Murong-Yu. Only a small number of them. Hearing this, many people who had just raised their feet retracted their feet. Under such circumstances, they had reason to believe that Murong-Yu could kill them. However, there were still some people who did not believe it and did not listen to Murong-Yu at all. They directly rushed over. Bang! 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 Murong-Yu did not do anything, but a series of muffled sounds exploded. Clumps of blood mist exploded in the void. It was a very shrill scene. Everyone felt a chill in their hearts. They did not see Murong-Yu make a move at all. Master Blood Demon did not make a move either. However, it was definitely Murong-Yu who killed them. Therefore, no one dared to run away. No one dared to say anything. They all looked at Murong-Yu with pale faces, their eyes full of fear. Blood Demon, collect all of their treasures for me. If anyone doesn't give them, or tries to run away, kill them. If anyone hides the truth and does not hand over all the treasures, don't try to fool me. I know if you're hiding anything. When I find out, I will kill you without mercy. The first sentence was said by Murong-Yu to Master Blood Demon, and the second sentence was said to the many experts whose realms were suppressed. After saying that, Murong's figure flashed and disappeared on the spot. Regret appeared on the faces of everyone present. This was because they all realized that some people who were nearby but did not attack Murong-Yu had already left. What kind of sin have I committed to attack Murong-Yu? Some people wanted nothing more than to slap themselves in the face. Everyone, you heard the sacred master's words. It's best if you obediently hand over the treasures. Of course, I welcome those who do not want to hand over the treasures and run away. Master Blood Demon licked his lips and laughed coldly. Everyone felt a chill in their hearts. Most of them were only in the undying realm, but Master Blood Demon was a Chaos Ancestor Saint. If this guy slapped down, hundreds of thousands of them would immediately die without leaving a trace. Therefore, they began to hand over the treasures. All of them vomited blood. Not only did they get injured because of the cancellation of the recognition of the treasures, but they also vomited blood because of the grievances in their hearts. In Hichu Luoshu, the mountain and sea scripture is connected to the mountain and sea secret realm. If I get the mountain and sea scripture, I can control the mountain and sea secret realm? Murong-Yu said excitedly. Yes, the mountain and sea scripture alone is not a complete supreme artifact. Together with the mountain and sea secret realm is a complete supreme artifact. Master, if you are not a soul saint, your spirit and soul would be strong enough. I'm afraid that the moment I recognize you as my master, your spirit and soul would be shattered and then annihilated. Murong-Yu was speechless. The mountain and sea scripture did not mention this before it recognized him as its master. Right, mountain and sea was the name Murong-Yu gave to the mountain and sea scripture's artifact spirit. The names he gave were all so strange. For example, the artifact spirit of Hichu Luoshu, Hichu, in his words, it was simple and simple. The mountain and sea secret realm is also a part of the supreme artifact. Could it be that the mountain and sea scripture is useless after taking it out of the mountain and sea secret realm? Moronyu was slightly disappointed. Mountain and sea hurriedly said, "Of course not. The mountain and sea scripture is the main part of the supreme artifact. It controls the entire mountain and sea secret realm. If you take the mountain and sea scripture out, it will still have the power of a supreme artifact. Moreover, the mountain and sea secret realm will also move with the mountain and sea secret realm. It can also be fixed in a certain place." Muronyu's eyes revealed a blazing light. The mountain and sea secret realm can move. Mountain and sea immediately answered affirmatively. Moronyu was overjoyed. At this moment, the size of the mountain and sea secret realm had already surpassed the divine world. Here, Moronyu was the ruler. Even a supreme being would be suppressed if they entered this place. They would not be a match for Moronyu. Weren't the people of the holy world suppressing Moronyu? Wasn't Moronyu worried about not having a place to place Shenzhen? Wasn't this mountain and sea secret realm just right? Moreover, the mountain and sea secret realm was different from the Hichu Luoshu world. Although the Hichu Luoshu world was big and formed its own world. But after all, it was only a space inside a treasure. The mountain and sea secret realm was directly connected to the holy world. It could be fixed in a certain place and could also be moved. It was the same as the dragon world. Chapter 1550. If the mountain sea secret realm was a world of treasures like the Hichu Luoshu world, Moronyu wouldn't care about it all. Although the mountain sea scripture was a supreme artifact, how could it compare to the Hichu Luoshu? The Hichu Luoshu world was enough to accommodate all of Shenzhen's people. However, the Hichu Luoshu was Muronyu's personal treasure. He had to take it with him wherever he went. It was precisely because of this that Moronyu didn't want Shenzhen, Yu Mengqing, and the others to stay in the Hichu Luoshu all the time. To put it bluntly, what if Moronyu died? Who knew if the Hichu Luoshu world would return to chaos after Moronyu died? One had to know that when Moronyu obtained the Hichu Luoshu world, the space inside was only a small part. The Hichu Luoshu world continued to grow as Moronyu became stronger. Even if it didn't return to chaos, would the people in the Hichu Luoshu world have to stay there forever? This wasn't good for them. It would be harming them. If the mountain sea scripture could be fixed in the holy world and moved at any time, then Moronyu wouldn't need to carry it with him. Even if Moronyu really died, the people in the mountain sea secret realm would be fine. In addition, the mountain sea scripture was also a powerful supreme artifact. However, it wasn't necessarily the same as the purple light heavenly rhoda. It wouldn't suck Moronyu's strength dry, but Moronyu wouldn't be able to use the power of the mountain sea scripture. The stronger he was, the stronger the power of the mountain sea scripture would be. Moreover, Moronyu also knew that the mountain sea scripture was different from ordinary supreme artifacts. Its attack methods were somewhat different. As for what was different, Moronyu hadn't tried it yet. At this moment, he was a little restless. He wanted to give it a try. However, there was no such world yet. There were still many things waiting for him to do. With a thought, his enormous divine sense enveloped the entire mountain sea secret realm. Instantly, he saw every corner of the mountain sea secret realm. "All of you get out!" Moronyu shouted in his heart. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Some of the sages who had yet to leave the mountain sea secret realm suddenly found themselves enveloped by an inexplicable force. Before they could react, the scenery in front of them was changing rapidly. In the next moment, they were surprised to find that they had already appeared outside the mountain sea secret realm. They had actually been kicked out. He was kicked out by Moronyu. Of course, there were still some people who were not kicked out. The disciples of the true martial temple, heaven-suppressing sect, Void Hall, and other forces were not kicked out. On the contrary, Moronyu had directly moved them to the same place. Right now, the mountain sea secret realm was like the Hichu Luoshu world. Here, Moronu was the absolute ruler. Not to mention just teleporting or kicking out these people. As long as he wanted to, rebuilding the rivers and mountains was a small matter. Seeing so many people suddenly arrive, Master Blood Demon was shocked. But soon, he faithfully carried out Murong Yu's order to force everyone's treasures out. At first, the people who came later did not cooperate. However, after Master Blood Demon tore a few people apart, they obediently handed over their treasures. Whoosh! Murong Yu appeared beside Master Blood Demon out of thin air. Sacred Master, you're rich. Master Blood Demon grinned and handed the spatial treasures to Murong Yu. There were millions of people present, although most of these people were not very strong. But there were also many primal Chaos Ancestral Saints. Moreover, these primal Chaos Ancestral Saint Realm experts were usually people from large factions. They had high positions and noble identities. Naturally, they more or less had a primal Chaos Ancestral artifact on them. Some even had more than one primal Chaos Ancestral artifact. Master Blood Demon knew of more than 1,000 primal Chaos Ancestral artifacts. As for primal Chaos Ancestral artifacts and other treasures, there were even more. 1,000 primal Chaos Ancestral artifacts. Even as powerful as Master Blood Demon was, he had never seen so many primal Chaos Ancestral artifacts. These were primal Chaos Ancestral artifacts, not lower or middle-grade sacred artifacts. Even the trashiest primal Chaos Ancestral artifact had a sky-high price. One must know that many primal Chaos Ancestral Saints in the Saints world only used primal Chaos Ancestral artifacts. They could not even get their own primal Chaos Ancestral artifacts. At this moment, Master Blood Demon finally felt that he had followed the right person. If it was before, let alone 1,000 primal Chaos Ancestral artifacts, he could not even get 10. The primal Chaos Ancestral artifact he was using was something he had risked his life to obtain. He had almost died in the process. In terms of primal Chaos Ancestral artifacts, Murong Yu's wealth was comparable to that of an ordinary superpower. More than 1,000 primal Chaos Ancestral artifacts and countless sacred artifacts of other grades. As expected, this is faster than robbing their treasury. Murong Yu revealed a smile. Moreover, this was only the beginning. Soon, the factions behind these people would have to pay him food expenses. By then, he would have a large number of primal Chaos Ancestral artifacts in his hands. However, that matter was not urgent. Now, Murong Yu had offended even more people, like the disciples of True Martial Temple. After this matter, the True Martial Temple's peerless experts would definitely make a move. With Murong Yu's current strength, he could not contend against them. Therefore, before collecting food expenses, Murong Yu had to raise his strength first. At the very least, he had to raise his strength to the Holy King realm. Blood Demon, stay here and watch over these people. If anyone gets impatient, just leave. If they are impatient, you can loosen up your bones. Murong Yu instructed and disappeared. Master Blood Demon grinned and turned to look at the millions of people. He said with a smile, "Are there any of you who are unconvinced or have any objections? You can raise them now. Raise your ass." Everyone cursed inwardly. However, the expression on his face did not change. They did not want to reveal anything. Otherwise, they would be beaten up or even killed by Master Blood Demon. In the Hichu Luoshu, Murong Yu swallowed over 100 Chaos Ancestral artifacts in one gulp. Chaos Furnace, refine them all. Murong Yu roared in his heart, but the Chaos Furnace was already trembling slightly. One by one, the Chaos Ancestral artifacts were refined. Waves of incomparably powerful energy poured into Murong Yu's body out of thin air. Originally, Murong Yu's realm had already reached the peak of the ancient saint realm and was only one step away from breaking through to the holy ruler realm. After this vigorous energy poured in, Murong Yu began to break through to the next realm. One by one, the Chaos Ancestral artifacts were quickly refined. Under Murong Yu's attacks, the barrier to the holy ruler realm was constantly loosening. Finally, when Murong Yu refined over 200 primal chaos ancestral artifacts. He finally broke through the barrier of his cultivation. Boom! An aura more than 10 times stronger than before suddenly erupted from Murong Yu's body. It swept in all directions. The Holy Ruler Realm. Murong Yu had finally reached the Holy Ruler Realm. From now on, he could be considered a minor expert. However, Murong Yu could originally cross 2 realms to kill an enemy. In terms of combat strength, he should be considered a peerless expert. However, Murong Yu did not stop refining the Chaos Ancestral artifacts. Instead, he continued to refine them. However, it was not as violent as before. One by one, the Chaos Ancestral artifacts were refined. Among them, 90% of the energy that poured into Murong Yu's body was used to refine his body. Only 10% was used to consolidate his current cultivation base. After an unknown period of time, when Murong Yu had refined another 100 Chaos Ancestral artifacts, circles of black light suddenly bloomed from his body. An intimidating aura emanated from Murong Yu's body, shaking heaven and earth. A body on the level of a top-grade sacred artifact. Murong Yu revealed a smile on his face. Although he had the chaotic celestial body constitution, the improvement of his physical body had always been slower than the improvement of his cultivation base. Therefore, his physical body had only reached the level of a supreme holy artifact when he reached the Holy Ruler Realm. However, this level of physical body was one of the best in the holy world. However, according to Hichu, this level of physical body was unable to unleash the power of the chaotic celestial body constitution. However, everyone knew that it was difficult to improve the physical body. If Murong Yu could not refine the energy of the sacred artifacts to refine his physical body, it would probably take countless years for Murong Yu to improve his physical body to the level of a supreme holy artifact. After all, there were not many places that were filled with energy like the small lightning world. Even if there were, it might not be suitable for Murong Yu to refine his physical body. However, although his physical body was not strong, it had increased Murong Yu's strength by about 50%. Originally, Murong Yu's strength could barely contend with an ordinary first-stage chaotic ancestor saint. However, after the breakthrough of his physical body, he was confident that he could kill a first-stage chaotic ancestor saint. Even if the other party was at the peak of the first-stage chaotic ancestor saint. At the level of the chaotic ancestor saint, even if it was just a small level within a small level, the difference in strength was huge. It was like a natural chasm. It's time to collect food from them. I can't afford to feed so many people. Murong Yu chuckled and left Hichu Luo Shu. One must know that those imprisoned by him were all saints. They did not need Murong Yu's food expenses at all. They did not need him to feed them at all. After appearing beside the blood demon, Murong Yu threw out a large number of jade slips and said, "1 jade slip for each force. Collect your soul aura inside. Also, tell your force inside that if they want you, they can do so, but they have to pay the food expenses for these few days. Don't worry, I won't cheat you. Your food expenses are very cheap. A chaotic ancestor saint only needs to pay a chaotic ancestral artifact. A chaotic ancestor saint only needs 1 ancestral artifact, and so on. Of course, if chi is not enough, Dharma treasures will do too. Treasures of the same level will do too." This was called very cheap. Hearing Murong Yu's words, the millions of saints present were about to vomit blood. In addition to the treasures that Murong Yu had obtained from them, Murong Yu had made a killing this time. Of course, you have to add one more thing. I'll only give you 1 month. If you haven't prepared food expenses for a month, then I'll kill one of your forces at random. Remember, it's random. It could be a chaotic ancestor saint. Murong Yu smiled faintly, while the blood demon grinned beside him. He realized that the mastery followed was really interesting and promising. Chapter 1551. Under Murong Yu's intimidation, the millions of people present did not resist. They obediently imprinted all of Murong Yu's instructions on the jade slip. In the end, Morong, you checked it once. After seeing that there was nothing unusual, he put it away. However, now that they had the jade slip, who would deliver it to their master? Sacred Master, I'll deliver the jade slip. Master Blood Demon grinned and took the initiative to take on this responsibility. All right, but be careful not to die. Morong handed the jade slip to Master Blood Demon and said with a smile. Master Blood Demon sweated. With his strength, it was really not easy to die, unless he was surrounded by many primal chaos ancestor saints. However, he was only going to deliver the jade slip. He might not necessarily go to the headquarters of these forces or give it to their primal chaos ancestor saints. Thus, Master Blood Demon was teleported out of the Mountain Sea secret realm by Morong. Arrogant. Truly arrogant. When they saw the jade slip sent by Morong, the experts of True Martial Temple who were still lingering outside the Mountain Sea secret realm were furious. Because True Martial Temple was closer to this place, more than a dozen primal chaos ancestor saints entered the Mountain Sea secret realm. In addition to these primal chaos ancestor saints, there were more than 100 primal chaos ancestor saints and countless disciples of other realms. There were probably thousands of people. A primal chaos ancestor saint wanted a primal chaos ancestor artifact and a primal chaos ancestor artifact. This required more than a dozen primal chaos ancestor artifacts and more than 100 primal chaos ancestor artifacts. To True Martial Temple, this was nothing. It was easy for them to take it out. However, this was Morong's extortion. If they really took out these sacred artifacts, it would be embarrassing. They would be slapped in the face by Morong, the disciple they had driven out. Our True Martial Temple is a big family. We definitely can't indulge Morong. If we hand over the sacred artifact today, will Morong capture another disciple of our temple the next day? Then we can only obediently go and ransom them? This is too bad. A primal chaos ancestor saint from True Martial Temple said angrily. Saint artifacts were not a problem, but the situation was too bad. What if Morong started this? Would he continue to do this in the future? Moreover, would others do the same? Would the True Martial Temple still have any face left? However, if we don't hand over the sacred weapon as ransom, knowing Morong's character, he will definitely kill us. Even our True Martial Sacred Hall can't afford to lose a dozen primal chaos ancestral saints. Moreover, their deaths were a small matter. If this matter were to spread, our True Martial Temple's disciples would be bitterly disappointed. Thus, not only do we need to ransom them, we need to ransom all of them. We cannot disappoint the disciples of the temple. As for Morong, he must die. Unless he hides in the Mountain Sea secret realm, our True Martial Temple will issue the True Martial Kill order to him. In any case, they wanted to kill Morong and seize his body and Hichu Luoshu. After this incident, they had even more reason to make a move. Moreover, the True Martial Temple's peerless experts had enough reason to make a move. Immediately, these powerhouses agreed and reported this matter back to the True Martial Temple. At the same time, the other forces were also furious. However, they had no choice but to gather saint artifacts to ransom them. Some forces did not want to ransom them and did not want to start this. However, if they did not ransom them, the disciples of their forces would be bitterly disappointed. It was precisely because of this that Morong thought of this. He was not afraid that these people would not ransom them. While many forces were gathering saint artifacts, Morong was not idle. Shenzhen had been released by the people in the Hichu Luoshu and began to build the Mountain Sea secret realm. From then on, the Mountain Sea secret realm became Shenzhen's headquarters in the Holy World. As for Morong, he worked with the He-Tu to construct a teleportation array between the Saint's world and the God world. Otherwise, without the teleportation array, Shenzhen's people would not be able to directly ascend to the Mountain Sea secret realm. If they ascended outside the Holy World, whether they could find the Mountain Sea secret realm was still a problem. After all, the ascenders were too weak. After a long journey, they would either be killed by ferocious beasts or other saints. Moreover, they would not know the existence of the Mountain Sea secret realm. The teleportation array was easier than Morong had imagined. This was because Murong Yu was the master of the Mountain Sea secret realm and the master of the God world. The two different worlds were connected because of him. Thus, Murong Yu was able to easily set up a transfer array between the two worlds. As long as Murong Yu did not die, this teleportation array would continue to be useful. If Murong Yu died, the bridge between the two worlds would be broken. Naturally, the teleportation array would not be able to teleport. It could only be rebuilt. Of course, it wouldn't be that easy for Murong Yu to fall. A month passed very quickly, and the teleportation array had been built. This was all thanks to those people who had been taken down by Murong Yu. All the materials to build the teleportation array, especially some rare materials, were found in their spatial treasures. Sacred Master, it's time. Should we go and pay for the food? Master Blood Demon walked over and chuckled. Although this fellow had recovered the strength of the primal Chaos Ancestor Saint, his role had completely changed. He no longer had the domineering and independent personality of the past. Of course, this was only in front of Murong Yu. Murong Yu nodded, and then Master Blood Demon felt the scenery in front of him change. In the next moment, they appeared outside the Mountain Sea secret realm. Swish! The moment Murong Yu appeared, countless gazes swept across the endless space and time and finally landed on the two of them. At the same time, waves of terrifying killing intent pressed down as if they were material, as if they wanted to kill Murong Yu. I'm quite a timid person, and I'm easily frightened. Once I'm frightened, my hand can't help but tremble. If my hand trembles, someone in the Mountain Sea secret realm might have their head twisted off with a crack. Murong Yu glanced at the densely packed saints around him, and a trace of fear appeared on his face. Of course, this was all an act. A threat. It was a blatant threat. Murong Yu was a dignified saint, and he was extremely daring. How could he be timid? He was just openly threatening the many experts outside. However, everyone was threatened by him. Immediately, the murderous intent that came crashing down like raging waves instantly dissipated without a trace. On the other hand, some forces wanted to continue using their killing intent to suppress Murong Yu. They wanted to anger Murong Yu and kill people from certain forces, deepening the hatred between Murong Yu and those forces. However, these people were quickly warned by the people from True Martial Temple. Therefore, they did not dare to act rashly. Murong Yu, where are our people? A primal Chaos Ancestor Saint from True Martial Temple stood up and looked at Murong Yu coldly, his eyes filled with killing intent. There was no other way. Although Murong Yu had captured many people, True Martial Temple was the only sacred land. This made True Martial Temple very embarrassed and angry. They knew that Murong Yu was specifically targeting them. Seeing the people from True Martial Temple, the people from the other sacred lands could not help but smile. They were all sacred lands, and they loved to see other sacred lands suffer. Murong Yu glanced at the other party, then ignored him and looked into the distance. Are the people from the Luoho Tower here? The Luoho Tower was equivalent to the strength of a sacred nation like the Nine in Holy Nation. There were only a few primal Chaos Ancestor Saints, and one of them had been captured by Murong Yu. It could be said that they were very pitiful. They were the weakest among those captured by Murong Yu. Murong Yu, this is our sacred weapon. A primal Chaos Ancestor Saint from the Luoho Tower walked over and threw a storage ring to Murong Yu. Murong Yu probed it with his spiritual force. After confirming that the number was correct, he kept it. At the same time, a few figures appeared in front of them out of thin air. They were the experts from the Luoho Tower. Bastard! As soon as he appeared, the primal Chaos Ancestor Saint from the Luoho Tower recovered his strength. Then, he roared and turned to look at Murong Yu with murderous intent. He was about to attack. If I die, no one else will live. Murong Yu did not look nervous and just said indifferently, whoosh. Immediately, countless gazes filled with sharp killing intent crossed the layers of space and focused on the primal Chaos Ancestor Saint from the Luoho Tower. It's nothing. I'm just venting my frustration. You guys can continue. The peerless expert from the Luoho Tower was shocked. After laughing awkwardly, he soared into the sky and left Murongyu. He did not want to be torn apart by others. Murongyu, it's time for you to come to our true martial temple, right? The peerless expert from the true martial temple, who was ignored by Murongyu, was furious. However, he did not flare up. At this moment, he spoke again. His voice was low and murderous. The emperor is not in a hurry, but the eunuch is. Stay here and don't rush me. Murongyu glanced at that person indifferently. He did not have a good impression of the true martial temple. You, the peerless expert from the true martial temple, was furious. Do you believe that I can make you hand over one less primal chaos ancestral artifact? Murongyu looked at that guy and said indifferently. The peerless expert from the true martial temple glared at Murongyu fiercely and then quickly retreated. Making him hand over one less primal chaos ancestral artifact was undoubtedly a good thing. However, the premise was that Murongyu would kill one of their primal chaos ancestor saints. In the following period of time, the various forces handed over all kinds of treasures. At the same time, Murongyu continued to release their men. More and more people were released. In the beginning, under the suppression of the expert from other forces, these people who were once imprisoned did not dare to do anything. However, as more and more people came, they began to become restless. Each of them looked at Murongyu with murderous intent. Gradually, even the true martial temple could not suppress them. What did the life and death of other forces have to do with them? They only wanted to kill Murongyu now. Murongyu had attracted too much hatred. Chapter 1552. However, although they couldn't wait to slap Murongyu to death, they didn't have the confidence to kill Murongyu. If they could kill Murongyu in one fell swoop, it would be fine. If they couldn't kill Murongyu, then they could only wait for Murongyu's crazy revenge. Moreover, the forces behind those saints who hadn't been released by Murongyu wouldn't let them go either. Feeling the increasingly strong killing intent of the people around him, Murongyu sneered in his heart. He dared to appear in front of everyone. He dared to extort these big forces. He wasn't afraid of these people attacking him. Things were still going on. One by one, the people of the big forces were released by Murongyu. In the end, only the super forces and the true martial temple were left. However, after those people were released, they didn't leave immediately. Instead, they looked at Murongyu with anger. They were waiting for an opportunity. Soon, the true martial temple was the only holy land that hadn't been released. However, the people of the true martial temple were already used to it. They didn't mind Murongyu continuing to make them wait. In fact, even if they flipped out, Murongyu wouldn't care. Moreover, they couldn't do anything to Murongyu. Unknowingly, the blood demon had disappeared from Murongyu's side. Fellow Taoists of the true martial temple, I hope you can help me more in the future. After releasing the experts of the true martial temple, Murongyu looked at them with a smile. In fact, his words were also meant for the others. The faces of the saints of the big forces turned gloomy. Help him more? Did he want them to take the initiative to give the treasures to Murongyu? Wasn't this one time enough for him? Everyone was about to vomit blood in their hearts. Their killing intent towards Murongyu became more and more intense. Boom! Finally, someone couldn't help but make a move. Moreover, there were a lot of people who couldn't help but make a move. Millions of experts seemed to have discussed it beforehand. Gotcha! Murongyu still had a smile on his face. Before he could react, he was already blown to pieces by the power of the crowd. He couldn't be more dead. Moreover, they all discovered that Murongyu had indeed been blasted into smithereens and had not escaped. We've finally killed this little bastard. The people who had attacked all heaved a sigh of relief, feeling that the anger that had been suppressed for a long time had finally been vented. However, some people felt that something was amiss. That's not right. If Murongyu was really killed, he would have been killed. Then where did the treasure in his body go? He didn't drop anything after he died. Finally, someone realized that something was wrong and voiced his doubts. Whoosh! Everyone's eyes were focused on the spot where Murongyu had been. Then, their expressions changed drastically. Murongyu was not killed. Everyone's face turned ugly. They had made a move, but they had failed to kill Moronyu. This was too tragic. Presumably, Moronyu was very angry right now. Moreover, Moronyu seemed to have been prepared for this. In the future, Moronyu would definitely take revenge crazily. When they thought of Morongyu's revenge, all the experts present could not help but tremble in fear. Moronyu now had two supreme being weapons. If he were to recklessly charge into their headquarters and sacrifice his supreme weapon, even if he wouldn't be able to annihilate their forces, the losses they would suffer would be extremely terrifying. Moronyu must still be in the Mountain Sea Secret Realm. In the Mountain Sea Secret Realm, he is indeed powerful. We're no match for him at all. However, if he is in the Holy World, why should we be afraid of him? I suggest that we gather all our strength and directly destroy the Mountain Sea Secret Realm. As long as they destroyed the Mountain Sea Secret Realm, Moronyu's strength was not worth mentioning. As soon as this suggestion was made, it immediately received a response from many people. In fact, many people had already started to attack. Suddenly, an incomparably violent power covered the sky and the earth, bombarding the Mountain Sea Secret Realm. Rumble, the entrance of the Mountain Sea Secret Realm, was directly destroyed. However, that was all. The entrance was destroyed, but it could not do anything to the Mountain Sea Secret Realm, even if the void was shattered by the bombardment. After all, although the Mountain Sea Secret Realm was an independent space, it was closely connected to the Holy World. Most importantly, the Mountain Sea Secret Realm was not here. Therefore, even if these people destroyed this void, they would not be able to cause any damage to the Mountain Sea Secret Realm, unless they all entered the Mountain Sea Secret Realm. However, if they entered the Mountain Sea Secret Realm, it would be no different from courting death. It doesn't seem to have any effect. After a few rounds of attacks, everyone finally stopped attacking. This was because they realized that their attacks had no effect at all. The Mountain Sea Secret Realm must be here. Maybe the Mountain Sea Secret Realm has already been severely damaged. We just haven't discovered it yet. Moreover, as long as we continue to attack, the Mountain Sea Secret Realm will definitely be severely damaged. The person who suggested before said unwillingly. Continue attacking. I want to see what you can do to me. Moronyu's voice suddenly rang out. Then, he appeared in front of everyone. Boom! As soon as Moronyu's figure appeared, a chaotic ancestor, Sane, attacked him forcefully and blew him up with a punch. Moronyu's words died in his throat. Well done! Moronyu's voice rang out again. If you don't welcome me, I won't go out. However, it's best if you don't beg me later. Otherwise, you've just killed two of my doppelgangers. Do you know how precious my power is? Moronyu's voice slowly rang out. It was ethereal, and no one knew where he was. Doppelgangers. Yes, Moronyu had been killed twice in a row, but it was only his strength doppelgangers. Moronyu wasn't an idiot. How could he not know that these people hated him to the core? If his original body came out, he would be an idiot. Therefore, what he appeared in the outside world was only a clone of his strength. However, no one realized that it was not his original body. Otherwise, those people would not have attacked. Beg you? Hearing Moronyu's words, the people who had attacked earlier sneered. Now that Moronyu did not have their people as hostages, why would they be afraid of Moronyu? If they saw Moronyu in the future, they would kill him directly. Fall! 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 While everyone was cursing Moronyu, Moronyu's voice rang out again. Plop! 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 Before Moronyu's voice died away, experts in the crowd suddenly fell to the ground and fainted. Although some people did not fall, their faces changed drastically. My strength has been sealed. What's going on? Everyone was shocked and quickly checked those who were unconscious or had their strength sealed. Very soon, they found out the reason. Their bodies were sealed by a black force. Even their souls had been sealed. Child's play. A peerless expert snorted and began to remove the force for those who were sealed. However, their faces changed very quickly. This was because they could not remove the black force at all. The black force was attached to the sealed sage's power and fused into one. It even surpassed those people's power. If they wanted to remove the Black Force, they could do so. They just had to remove all the sage's power. However, the Black Force was like gangrene attached to the bones. It was entangled with the sage's physical body and even their souls. The physical body was still fine. They just had to destroy the physical body. However, how could they remove the force from the soul? Could it be that even their souls would be destroyed? In that case, it would be better to just kill them. The Black Force had completely fused with the sage's soul. Moreover, the experts from the various forces knew that the Black Force was definitely related to Muronyu. As long as Muronyu was willing, he could detonate these people's souls remotely. Muronyu, you're shameless. How could you be so despicable? Immediately, someone roared angrily. I'm shameless? Aren't you despicable? If you hadn't attacked me, would I have used such a method? I'm just protecting myself. Originally, if you had left safely, I wouldn't have done such a thing. If you don't believe me, you can go and ask those who have left and see if they have any of my remaining power in their bodies. Muronyu's disdainful voice came from afar, causing everyone's faces to turn red. In the end, all of this was caused by themselves. The Black Force was naturally Muronyu's chaotic force. The power of the chaotic force gradually revealed its great power as Muronyu's strength increased. This was Muronyu's backup plan. This bastard is too ruthless. If we can't get rid of this force, I'm afraid we'll have to bleed again. The experts from some forces glanced at the Mountain Sea secret realm with gloomy faces. Then, they grabbed the unconscious or sealed saints and quickly left. They couldn't get rid of this force, but there were still many experts in their forces. Perhaps there were experts who could do it? Everyone take care. I'll wait here for a year. Within a year, bring double the treasures to me. I can remove the force for you. Otherwise, those people will be crippled for life, Muronyu said calmly, as if he had a card up his sleeve. The level of the chaotic force was much higher than the saint force. Even a high-level chaotic ancestral saint couldn't get rid of it. Moreover, Muronyu had left behind some tricks. If those people wanted to break it by force, they would receive a big gift. Soon, those who had been tricked left one after another. However, there were still many people who stayed in front of the Mountain Sea secret realm and didn't leave. Muronyu didn't know what they were planning, but he didn't pay attention to it. In any case, they couldn't kill their way into the Mountain Sea secret realm. Muronyu couldn't wait for them to kill their way into the Mountain Sea secret realm. Chapter 1553. True Martial Sacred Hall. It had been many days since Muronyu released their people. In the main hall, more than a dozen primal chaos ancestor sages surrounded an ancestor sage, all of them frowning. Some of them probed the ancestor sage's body with their divine senses, while others stroked the ancestor sage's body with their hands. All of them looked gloomy. This ancestor sage was a disciple of true martial sacred hall whose power and soul had been sealed by Muronyu. This black energy is really strange. It has completely fused with their bodies. It's difficult to expel it. A primal chaos ancestor sage said in a deep voice, his face ugly. Although it's not as powerful as our power, it's more powerful than ours in essence. What kind of power is it? How did Muronyu control it? Even so, we have to force it out. Everyone, let's begin. Thus, all of their power surged into the ancestor sage's body and began to violently expel the primal chaos ancestor sage that Muronyu had left behind. The primal chaos ancestor sage's power existed. They wanted to separate the ancestor sage's power. In this way, Muronyu's primal chaos ancestor sage would be expelled. In the beginning, it went smoothly. The ancestor sage's power was constantly being extracted. After the ancestor sage lost his power, the primal chaos ancestor sage disappeared as well. Then, the power of the true martial sacred hall's peerless experts rushed into the ancestor sage's soul space. His entire soul was entangled by the primal chaos ancestor sage. Without a word, the peerless experts of true martial sacred hall used the previous method to expel the primal chaos ancestor sage's soul. However, the moment they started, the situation suddenly changed. The primal chaos ancestor sage's soul that was originally entangled in the ancestor sage's soul suddenly moved. Suddenly, the ancestor sage let out a shrill scream. Then, the true martial sacred hall's experts saw the primal chaos ancestor sage's soul rapidly shrink, crazily squeezing the ancestor sage's soul. In the end, the ancestor sage's soul could not withstand the pressure of the primal chaos ancestor sage's soul and exploded with a bang. Once his soul was destroyed, the ancestral sage would naturally die. Everything happened in the blink of an eye. It was so fast that even those primal chaos ancestor saints didn't have time to react before the ancestor saint died. Bastard! Tens of chaos ancestor saints retracted their spirit wills from the dead ancestor's soul space, then cursed with unsightly faces. The power of chaos would not suddenly activate on its own. Moron, you must have done something. That was why they were so furious. In fact, it was really Moron Yu's doing. As long as it was forcefully expelled, the power of chaos would be activated and counterattacked. Those people's souls had been suppressed, and they had no ability to resist at all. They could be easily killed. How is it? Should we continue? One of the primal chaos ancestral saints asked the others. Of course we have to continue. Otherwise, these people will be crippled. As a sacred ground, we can't lower our heads to Moron-yu. Another primal chaos ancestral saint said in a deep voice. Next, the second sealed disciple of the true martial temple was sent into the main hall. However, this time, it was only a saint king. They had no confidence at all. These people were just lab rats. There were many saint kings in the true martial temple, and they could afford to lose them. However, they were unwilling to lose ancestral saints. However, no matter what they thought of, they could not do anything to Moron-yu's power of chaos. When the sealed people died one by one, the people of the true martial temple fell silent. All of them were furious. They could not expel the power of chaos at all. Even the rank 9 primal chaos ancestral saints took action, but they still did not gain anything. As soon as they came into contact with the sealed souls, the power of chaos moved. They cannot stop it at all. Do we really have to compromise with Moron-yu? The peerless experts of the true martial temple looked gloomy. They wouldn't be able to break those seals. Of course, other than compromising with Moron-yu, there was another way, and that was to let Supreme True Martial take action. However, how could Supreme True Martial take action? Even if he did, it might not be effective. Most importantly, the True Martial Supreme wasn't in the True Martial Temple. We can only choose to compromise. We can't just stand by and watch those sealed people turn into useless people. Moreover, there are more than 10 primal chaos ancestral saints among them. If we don't compromise, it will disappoint the disciples of the True Martial Temple. Big Shot of the True Martial Temple said. At the same time, the same thing happened to the other forces as the True Martial Temple. In the end, they all chose to compromise with Moron-yu. During this process, Moron-yu was also extremely busy. Shenzhen's disciples had all ascended from the Holy World to the Mountain Sea Secret Realm. The Mountain Sea Secret Realm was rich in heaven and earth essence chi, so there was no problem for them to cultivate here. However, although the Mountain Sea Secret Realm was big, it lacked some danger. There were no fierce beasts. Originally, there were fierce beasts in the Mountain Sea Secret Realm, but because of the previous incident, they had long been wiped out by the saints who had rushed into the Mountain Sea Secret Realm. Without the threat of fierce beasts, Shenzhen's disciples could not train. If they went out to train with their strength, they would be killed by others the moment they left the Mountain Sea Secret Realm. Therefore, Moron-yu wondered if he should capture a large number of fierce beasts and bring them here. However, the matter of capturing fierce beasts could not be rushed. Moron-yu did not immediately leave the Mountain Sea Secret Realm. He was still waiting for the people of the True Martial Temple to come and offer him their treasures. In the Hichu Luoshu, many experts of the Phoenix clan sat cross-legged on the ground with gloomy expressions. Originally, They had many companions, but they were all released by Murong Yu. Although they had also handed over the Jade Slip to the Phoenix clan, no one from the Phoenix clan came. They did not know if it was because of the long journey or because they had been abandoned. Everyone, you don't have any status in the Phoenix clan. The Phoenix clan actually did not send any news. I'm afraid they have already given up on you. Murong Yu entered the Hichu Luo Shu and appeared in front of them, saying with a smile, Bulsh asterisk T. The young man who had been slapped by Murong Yu could not help but shout angrily. His eyes were filled with incomparable resentment. Murong Yu turned to look at the young man. His eyes gradually turned cold. Watch your words. I'm in a good mood today, so I won't argue with you. If there's a next time, die. The hearts of the people of the Phoenix clan turned cold. Although the young man was unwilling, he also shut his mouth. After witnessing Murong Yu's ruthlessness, they knew that Murong Yu was definitely not joking. If there was a next time, they would definitely die. To think that they, the peerless experts of the Phoenix clan, were now suppressed by a lowly human saint king in their eyes to the point that they did not even dare to breathe loudly. Their steel teeth were about to shatter. However, no matter how unwilling they could only be angry and not dare to say anything. Every day you guys stay here, I'll consume more and more resources. I really can't afford to lose this. Looks like I'll have to ask the Phoenix clan to prepare more treasures. Murong Yu suddenly sighed. Many experts of the Phoenix clan almost spat out a mouthful of blood. Can't afford to lose? I can't afford to lose your head. We don't eat or drink here. We can't even cultivate. What resources can you consume? Many experts of the Phoenix clan were furious. They almost could not help but beat up Murong Yu. Don't look at me like that. Isn't the air you breathe every day a resource? You have to know that every breath of air in my treasure space is quite precious. Murong Yu glared at them and then left Hichu Luo Shu. After Murong Yu left, many experts of the Phoenix clan cursed loudly. This bastard is too much. At this moment, the target of their curses, Murong Yu, had a smile on his face. He entered Hichu Luo Shu to meet the experts of the Phoenix clan purely to discuss them. Moreover, he did not just want to discuss them. Before long, he sent out a Jade Slip. There was not much information in the Jade Slip. It only asked the Phoenix clan to double the amount of treasures. The Phoenix clan was large, so they should be able to produce these treasures quickly. However, the people of the Phoenix clan reacted a little too slowly. Someone sending treasures to me again. Treasures sure are easy to earn these days. Murong Yu chuckled. A clone left the secret realm of the Mountain Sea secret realm and appeared in the Saint's world. Murong Yu, we've brought double the amount of treasures from before. We hope you can withdraw your power. As soon as Murong Yu's doppelganger appeared, an expert walked over and spoke to Murong Yu with a calm expression on his face. Murong Yu's eyes brightened as a smile appeared on his face. Well said, well said. I've always been a fair trader. I don't cheat anyone. Fair my ass. The saint in front of Murong Yu cursed in his heart. However, he remained calm on the surface. He did not want Murong Yu to notice anything strange. He continued to raise the price. Murong Yu, our people are in the wrong this time. I hope we can get along peacefully after this. I don't attack people who don't attack me. If you didn't attack me first, why would you do this? Murong Yu said indifferently. After a pause, he continued, Give me the treasures and tell your people to leave. The power in their bodies will be unsealed in 10 days. Remember, I don't want to see anyone from your organization nearby. Otherwise, it won't be as simple as a few treasures. The saint was stunned and hesitated. What? You don't want to? Are you afraid I'll eat your treasures and go back on my word? Murong Yu sneered. The saint gritted his teeth. In the end, he still handed the spatial treasure to Murong Yu. Then, he quickly left with the people from his organization who had been sealed. With the first, there would naturally be a second. One organization after another continuously handed over their treasures. Murong Yu's hands were sore from receiving so many treasures. Chapter 1554. Murong Yu, I hope you don't run into the hands of our true martial temple in the future. Otherwise, you'll have a good time. A peerless expert from the true martial temple said to Murongyu with a gloomy face, then turned and left. The true martial temple was the last force to compromise with Murongyu. Before the official compromise, the seals of those forces that had compromised with Murongyu from the beginning had already been unsealed by Murongyu. Murongyu didn't do anything. The power that had invaded the saints' bodies had already been extracted by Murongyu. Of course, this was only what they saw. As for whether or not Murongyu had truly removed all the seals, that was something only he himself would know. Because many peerless experts from the true martial temple and other forces had carefully checked over and over again, but they still couldn't find anything. If even they couldn't find anything, even if Murongyu still had some tricks up his sleeve, they could only blame themselves for not being as good as him. I hope you can help me more in the future. I still lack a lot of treasures and various resources. Murongyu waved his hand at the peerless expert from the true martial temple. The peerless powerhouse from the true martial temple staggered and almost fell from the sky. This bastard, does he really think that our major forces are trading companies that provide free treasures? That he can take whatever he wants? The peerless expert from the true martial temple resisted the strong urge to slap Murongyu to death and quickly flew away. He was afraid that if he stayed any longer, he wouldn't be able to resist the urge to slap Murongyu to death. In that case, the true martial temple would have to bleed a lot again. Hee, seeing the peerless expert from the true martial temple leave in a sorry state. Murongyu sneered in his heart. How was he afraid of these people? If he was afraid, he wouldn't have done these things. However, it was true that he lacked a lot of treasures and resources. Now, there were many primal chaos ancestral artifacts, and other saint artifacts. But Shenzhen also had many disciples. These sacred artifacts could only equip a small portion of Shenzhen's disciples. Of course, Murongyu would not equip all of Shenzhen's disciples. Even if he had the ability, he wouldn't do it. After all, although Shenzhen was founded by him, it was already quite great for him to be able to reach this step. The development of a force couldn't depend on one person alone. It needed everyone to work together. Murongyu was only providing Shenzhen with the opportunity and resources to rise quickly. In the future, Shenzhen still needed the cooperation of Shenzhen's disciples. The people from the Phoenix clan have also set off. Murongyu received the news from the Phoenix clan from his clone. Originally, the people of the Phoenix clan had already set off. However, he later received news that Murongyu had increased the price. Of course, the Phoenixes were furious. However, they also knew that Murongyu could even kill the peerless experts of the human race without blinking, let alone the people of the Phoenix clan. Therefore, although they were furious, they still came with the treasures that Murongyu had requested. However, since they were stalling for time, Murongyu naturally wouldn't let them go so easily. Let them be for now. Murongyu's eyes flashed with a bright light, and then his figure flashed and left the Mountain Sea Secret Realm. However, he didn't appear at the entrance of the Mountain Sea Secret Realm. Instead, he appeared 1 billion miles away from the Mountain Sea Secret Realm. Murongyu was also afraid that someone would secretly attack him. Therefore, relying on the ability of the Mountain Sea Scripture, he directly left the Mountain Sea Secret Realm. This was the benefit of being the master of the Mountain Sea Secret Realm. In addition, as long as Murongyu had the Mountain Sea Scripture on him, and as long as Murongyu was still in the Holy World, he could directly enter the Mountain Sea Secret Realm through the Mountain Sea Scripture. However, although it was incomparably fast, and there was no need to rush, after Murongyu entered the Mountain Sea Secret Realm, the Mountain Sea Scripture would be left in the same place. Even if the Mountain Sea Scripture could be hidden, there was still the danger of being discovered. Most importantly, if Murongyu entered the Mountain Sea Secret Realm like this, he could only appear in the Mountain Sea Scripture when he appeared again. Although there was a huge drawback, it was extremely convenient and practical for others. Of course, Murongyu didn't have to go through so much trouble with Hichu Luo Shu. However, who knew if there would be a day when it would be useful? The Southern Blue Secret Realm was an extremely large and dangerous secret realm of the human clan in the Holy World. Very few people would enter here to train. This was because, according to legend, there were no treasures in this secret realm. Even if there were treasures of heaven and earth, they would have been taken away by some peerless experts. Moreover, the secret realm was filled with ferocious beasts, ranging from the sage realm to the chaotic ancestor realm. Ordinary sages would be courting death if they entered here. This was because there was no pattern to the distribution of ferocious beasts in the southern blue secret realm. There might even be a chaotic ancestor realm ferocious beast hiding beside a first-order sage realm ferocious beast. The ferocious beasts in the southern blue secret realm were just like those in the human kingdom. There were ferocious beasts of all realms in any place. This was something that countless sages of the human clan had explored with their blood and tears. Moreover, when entering the southern blue secret realm, they would be randomly teleported. Perhaps they would be directly teleported to the bloody mouth of a chaotic ancestor realm ferocious beast and be eaten by it as a snack. Other than that, there was only one exit in the southern blue secret realm. It was in the deepest part of the southern blue secret realm, and there were many chaotic ancestor realm ferocious beasts nearby. Swoosh! A figure appeared on top of a mountain peak. Roar! As soon as this figure appeared, before he could see his surroundings clearly, an earth-shattering roar of a beast could be heard. The deafening roar made this person's ears ring, and his eardrums almost burst. At the same time, a huge furry paw descended from the sky, bringing along a terrifying pressure as it slapped towards that person. It wanted to slap that person into meat paste and eat him as a snack. This person was Murongyu. He had entered the southern blue secret realm to capture ferocious beasts. What a beast! Murongyu scolded as he stretched out his right hand and grabbed the furry paw that was descending from the sky. With a puff, Murongyu grabbed the furry paw. Then, the furry paw that was descending rapidly was frozen in the sky, not moving at all. Roar! A terrifying roar could be heard. A powerful force exploded as it tried to break free from Murongyu's grasp. However, Murongyu's strength was simply too great. No matter how the huge paw struggled, it did not move at all. Blind Bear, go to sleep. At this time, Murongyu had already seen the ferocious beast that attacked him. It was a huge black bear, and its strength was at the level of a mid-level ancestor saint. However, Murongyu had already reached the first-level Holy King realm, and his strength was more than 100 times stronger than before. Even a first-stage primal chaos ancestor sage was no match for him, let alone a mere bear. With a slap, the blind bear, whose strength was comparable to a high-level ancestor sage, fainted just like that. In the end, Murongyu stored it into the He-2 and the Book of the Luo. Blood Demon, come out and do your work. After keeping the bear, Murongyu moved his mind, and numerous figures appeared beside him. There were more than 1,000 of them. Each and every one of them had shocking power. Their auras were like rainbows, and their blood energy was shocking. They were extremely powerful. Among them, there were 20 who had especially powerful auras. Just 20 of them were able to suppress another 1,000 experts. These 20 people were all at the level of a chaotic ancestor saint, and they were all rogue cultivators whose souls were controlled by Murongyu. Now, they had already become Shangzhen's peerless experts. The remaining 1,000 were all at the ancestor saint level. They were also experts who had been subdued by Murongyu. This was Shangzhen's current high-end combat strength. However, what made Murongyu a little regretful was that although there were already 20 chaotic ancestor saints, the strongest one was only at the level of a chaotic ancestor saint. However, the strongest among them was only a Tier 4 primal chaos ancestor sage. There wasn't even a Tier 5 primal chaos ancestor sage. Everyone disperse. Remember, I only want living ferocious beasts. Whether they're in the saint realm or the chaotic ancestor saint realm, I want them all. Remember, you have to ensure your own safety. Murongyu instructed. Then, everyone formed small teams and left. The experts of the primal chaos ancestor saint realm didn't form a team, because they weren't strong enough. Moreover, there were primal chaos ancestor, saint realm, ferocious beasts here. If they didn't form a team, they wouldn't be a match for these ferocious beasts at all. Although they could ask for help from Muronyu, this process would take time. After Master Blood Demon and the others left, Muronyu also made his move. Aimlessly, it recognized the direction and walked in that direction. Everywhere he passed, all the ferocious beasts were knocked unconscious by Muronyu with a punch and then kept into the Hichu Luoshu. As time passed, a large number of ferocious beasts were collected by Muronyu and the others. However, most of them were below the Ancestor Saint level. There are also many Ancestor Saint level ferocious beasts, but they were relatively small. As for the Chaotic Ancestor Saint level ferocious beasts, there were even fewer. With their current strength, it was still difficult to subdue ferocious beasts of this level. However, a year later, hundreds of Chaotic Ancestor Saint level ferocious beasts were collected. Among them, Master Blood Demon and the others only subdued a mere 30 to 40. But Muronyu alone subdued 60 to 70. The gap between the two sides was obvious. Moreover, Muronyu used his soul attack and the power of time and space laws to launch sneak attacks on the ferocious beasts. He even subdued a third-level Chaotic Ancestor, Saint-level ferocious beast. Of course, Muronyu was not without danger. He did not succeed in his sneak attack on a fourth-level Chaotic Ancestor, Saint-level ferocious beast. Instead, he was chased by that ferocious beast for half a year. Otherwise, the number of Chaotic Ancestor Saint-level ferocious beasts he caught would not be this many. On this day, Muronyu had just collected an Ancestor Saint-level ferocious beast into the Hichu Luoshu when Master Blood Demon's transmission jade slip had message. Holy Lord, save me. I'm being chased by a ferocious beast. If you don't come and save me, I'll die. The voice was very anxious and did not speak much. It seemed that he was being chased. Muronyu did not hesitate. After entering the Hichu Luoshu and sensing Master Blood Demon's location, he directly teleported out. Swish! Muronyu appeared not far from Master Blood Demon. Rumble, an incomparably terrifying power covered the sky and blasted down. In this instant, Muronyu's heart was enveloped by an incomparably intense aura of death. F*CK. Muronyu cursed and re-entered the Hichu Luoshu without any hesitation. Fortunately, he had just come out. If he was delayed for another 1 or 2 breaths, he would have rushed into the turbulent space. Chapter 1555. Holy Lord, save me. Master Blood Demon was frantically running for his life. Behind him, there were 5 or 6 primal chaos ancestor saint-level beasts frantically chasing after him. Every beast was stronger than Master Blood Demon in terms of cultivation. There was even a level 6 primal chaos ancestor saint. This realm was extremely terrifying. A level 1 primal chaos ancestor saint could not withstand a single slap and would be slapped to death. Even a level 5 saint was no match for it. If not for Master Blood Demon's proficiency in concealment and escape, he would have been slapped to death with his level 2 primal chaos ancestor saint strength. Moreover, apart from this incomparably violent beast, there were 5 other beasts that were not weak. Did Master Blood Demon incur the wrath of the crowd? He actually provoked 6 powerful beasts to chase after him at the same time. However, Muronyu didn't come out at the right time either. He just happened to be in the middle of the 6 vicious beasts' attack range. If it wasn't for his quick reaction, with his small body, he would have been blasted to death long ago. Master Blood Demon, it's not that I don't want to save you, but there's really nothing I can do. You're on your own now. Muronyu's voice sounded directly in Master Blood Demon's mind with a trace of helplessness. Master Blood Demon was indignant. Holy Lord, I'm your right-hand man. If you don't save me, you'll suffer a great loss. However, Master Blood Demon was just saying that. He also knew that the situation was critical. Not to mention that Muronyu was only his master. Even if he was his friend or even his son, he might not be able to save him at this time. Unless a large group of primal chaos ancestor saints appeared here, how could they resist? However, Master Blood Demon was wrong about Muronyu. Although Muronyu said that, he did not leave immediately. After all, he had already entered Hichu Luoshu. Leaving was just a matter of a thought. Master Blood Demon was one of his people. He definitely could not watch as he was killed. Unless he had no other choice, Muronyu wouldn't leave just like that. Muronyu was indeed loyal and affectionate to his own people. Blood Demon, how much longer can you hold on? Muronyu asked as he pondered on how to rescue Master Blood Demon. Holy Lord, I can still hold on for half a day. If I can't escape within half a day, I'm dead for sure. Master Blood Demon continued to madly run without stopping while replying to Muronyu in his mind. Half a day is enough. You don't need to do anything else. You just need to run for your life. Muronyu said, and then he made his move. He unleashed an incomparably violent attack on the weakest ferocious beast. Time Chaos, Time Freeze, a deity descending into the mortal world. Divine Soul Slash, Space Imprisonment. In a single breath, Muronyu unleashed several powerful moves. Because it was a sneak attack, those ferocious beasts did not react at all. The weakest beast, who was still a level 3 primal chaos ancestor saint, was blasted. Under the time chaos, one of the ferocious beast's claws directly slapped the body of an unprepared ferocious beast beside it. The violent power smashed half of the ferocious beast's body into pieces and sent it flying. Then, this tragic ferocious beast was frozen and imprisoned. His mind was also momentarily distracted. Then, his soul was ruthlessly slashed by Muronyu. This ferocious beast was immediately heavily injured. At this moment, Muronyu's large hand suddenly reached out from the Hichu Luoshu. In the time it took for a spark to fly off a flint, he had already pulled that heavily injured ferocious beast into the Hichu Luoshu. In an instant, without the attacks of the two demonic beasts, the pressure on Master Blood Demon was greatly reduced. His speed also increased by a lot. With a swish, he quickly rushed forward and pulled the distance between him and the ferocious beast. However, the current ferocious beast was not weak. It was not something that Master Blood Demon could match. Roar! At this moment, the remaining 5 ferocious beasts finally reacted and roared crazily. As they roared, their incomparably violent attacks swept out in all directions, causing the surrounding void to explode. However, the mysterious attacker did not appear. At this moment, Muronyu had already attached himself to Master Blood Demon's body. He wanted to attach himself to those ferocious beasts. However, those ferocious beasts were filled with power. He could not get close at all. Perhaps he would be discovered before he could even get close. Holy Lord, there are still 4 ferocious beasts. Quickly deal with them. Master Blood Demon communicated with Muronyu in his mind. At the same time, he quickly fled. Muronyu rolled his eyes. How could it be so easy to deal with them? He had launched a sneak attack and instantly dealt with a ferocious beast. That was luck. Now that those ferocious beasts were on guard, his attack would not be as effective as before. However, Master Blood Demon still had to be saved. Taking action was a must. Therefore, Muronyu attacked again. As expected, the ferocious beasts that were on guard were not heavily injured by Muronyu. Although some of them were injured by Muronyu's attack, it only slowed them down for a moment. However, if this continued, Master Blood Demon would definitely not be saved. After thinking about it, Muronyu asked Master Blood Demon to hold on for a while. There was no more news about him. In Hichu Luoshu, the ferocious beast that was heavily injured by Muronyu before appeared in front of Muronyu. When it saw Muronyu, although its power had been sealed, this ferocious beast still roared at Muronyu ferociously. It bared its fangs and looked extremely terrifying. Muronyu sneered, "Suppress it for me." Before his voice fell, a terrifying force descended from the sky, directly suppressing the ferocious beast that had its power sealed. "Suppress it for me." At this time, this ferocious beast could be said to be a fish on the chopping board. It had no power to resist at all. Its soul was easily controlled by Murong-yu. After controlling the ferocious beast's soul, Murong-yu released the suppression on the ferocious beast. Moreover, an extremely powerful life force surged over and healed the ferocious beast's injuries extremely quickly. Then, Murong-yu's figure flashed and appeared on the other side of Hichu Luoshu. It was just an independent space that Murong-yu had divided. There were countless ferocious beasts that had their power sealed here. Among them, there were 60 ferocious beasts at the chaotic ancestor saint level. These ferocious beasts were only suppressed. Murong-yu originally planned to put them in the Mountain Sea secret realm and did not control their souls. This was because there was no need. These were all for Shenzhen's disciples to gain experience. Once controlled, it would not be the case. However, now that he wanted to save Master Blood Demon, Murong-yu could only control their souls. Not long after, Murong-yu controlled these 60 ferocious beasts at the chaotic ancestor saint level. Including the first one that he controlled, the number of ferocious beasts at the chaotic ancestor saint level under Murong-yu's control had reached 61. Their strength could be said to be very powerful. Master Blood Demon, you're not dead yet, right? Murong-yu's voice appeared in Master Blood Demon's mind again. Master Blood Demon almost dared to move and was about to cry. In such a short time, he was almost killed by the 5 ferocious beasts behind him. He originally thought that without one ferocious beast, he would be a lot more relaxed. But now he realized that the pressure was even greater than before. This was because these 5 ferocious beasts had gone crazy. Attack! Murong-yu roared and attacked at the same time with the 61 ferocious beasts at the chaotic ancestor saint level that he controlled. Although Murong-yu only controlled one ferocious beast at the rank 3 chaotic ancestor saint level, there was strength in numbers. With dozens of ferocious beasts attacking at the same time, the momentum was extremely terrifying. Even the rank 6 chaotic ancestor saint level ferocious beast could not help but change its expression. Feeling the aura of death from the bottom of their hearts, the 5 ferocious beasts that were chasing Master Blood Demon stopped instantly. While their bodies were filled with power, their powerful attacks blasted in the direction of the danger. Rumble, the power of both sides collided violently in the void. After an earth-shattering sound, the void was directly annihilated. Among the 5 ferocious beasts, those whose strength had not reached the rank 6 chaotic ancestor saint level were sent flying while spewing blood. However, the rank 6 chaotic ancestor saint level ferocious beast's upper body only shook a little. It did not even take a step back. It took the attack of 62 chaotic ancestor saint level experts head on and was completely fine. This was the terrifying strength of a rank 6 chaotic ancestor saint. With 61 ferocious beasts, Murong-yu's battle strength had reached the chaotic ancestor saint level. Continue attacking. After the first attack, Murong-yu roared. Thus, a terrifying force blasted out again. Roar. The rank 6 chaotic ancestor saint level ferocious beast roared and punched out. With a loud bang, the power of both sides dissipated between heaven and earth. Moreover, it seemed that the opponent was slightly stronger. This was because the blood of many ferocious beasts on Murong-yu's side was surging. Fortunately, this ferocious beast is not good at speed. Otherwise, Master Blood Demon would not have been able to hold on until now. This thought flashed through Murong-yu's mind, and then his figure flashed and disappeared from the spot. Time freeze. God descending with a teleport. Murong-yu appeared in front of one of the ferocious beasts that had been blasted away. An incomparably violent attack immediately blasted down from all directions. At the same time, the other ferocious beasts in the Hichu Luoshu continued to attack the rank 6 chaotic ancestor, Saint Ferocious Beast. Rumble, the ferocious beast that Murong-yu attacked, was already injured. So how could it be a match for Murong-yu now? It could not block a round of attacks from Murong-yu at all. and then Murong Yu took it back into the Hichu Luo Shu. In for a penny, in for a pound. Murong Yu simply took control of the ferocious beast soul. Then, the ferocious beast joined the big family and began to attack the rank 6 chaotic ancestor, Saint Ferocious Beast. Murong Yu attacked again, pouncing on the third ferocious beast. However, the rank 6 chaotic ancestor, Saint Ferocious Beast, already knew Murong Yu's goal and rushed to the front of the ferocious beast before Murong Yu could. With a punch, it shattered Murong Yu's attack and protected the ferocious beast. Chapter 1556. This ferocious beast is really terrifying. Seeing that the rank 6 chaotic ancestor Saint Ferocious Beast was protecting the remaining ferocious beasts, Murong Yu, who was in the Hichu Luoshu world, looked helpless. Originally, this ferocious beast alone was enough to block the attacks of Murong Yu and the others. Together with the other ferocious beasts, it was more than enough to block the attacks of Murong Yu and the others. However, it wasn't as if Murong Yu didn't gain anything. In the process, he had taken the opportunity to put Master Blood Demon into the Hichu Luoshu world. It could be said that Murong Yu had achieved his goal and exceeded his expectations. After all, he had only come to save Master Blood Demon. However, he had captured several powerful ferocious beasts, which was an unexpected gain. Murong Yu could have left by now. However, he did not leave for a long time. When Master Blood Demon and the others attacked, Murong Yu stopped and frowned. There were still 4 powerful ferocious beasts here. In particular, the rank 6 ferocious beast was extremely powerful. If he could control it, it would become Shenzhen's guardian beast, which could increase Shenzhen's strength by a lot. However, all of Murong Yu's methods could not do anything to this powerful ferocious beast. Soul attacks and time attacks were all useless, unless he used a supreme weapon. However, even if he used a supreme weapon, Murong Yu did not have much confidence. A supreme weapon. That's right, the mountain and sea scripture. Murong Yu's eyes suddenly flashed. Then, a yellowed palm-sized ancient book appeared in his hand. Waves of vicissitudes of life were constantly emitted from the book. It was extremely mysterious. This book was the Mountain and Sea Scripture. The attack of the Mountain and Sea Scripture was different from that of ordinary divine weapons. Murong Yu had long wanted to try the attack of the Mountain and Sea Scripture. He wanted to see how terrifying the Mountain and Sea Scripture was and whether it lived up to its name. With a thought, Murong Yu cast out the Mountain and Sea Scripture. The Mountain and Sea Scripture turned into a stream of light that tore through space. It rushed out of the Hichu Luoshu and appeared above the heads of the beasts outside. The Mountain and Sea Scripture expanded with the wind, instantly becoming the size of a millstone. Rays of 5-colored holy light were emitted continuously, covering the sky and earth in an instant. The terrifying and incomparably powerful supreme artifact's power surged out like a tidal wave, intimidating the myriad worlds. The 4 beasts that were resisting the attacks of Murong Yu and the others felt something and looked up at the sky. When they saw the classic of mountains and seas, the 4 beasts, including the level 6 chaotic ancestor Saint Realm Beast, revealed a trace of fear. It shouldn't be. The power of the Mountain and Sea Scripture isn't enough to make a level 6 chaotic ancestor Saint Realm Beast feel fear. Murong Yu frowned when he saw the 4 beasts' horrifying expressions. However, Murong Yu didn't know whether to laugh or cry. The 60 over chaotic ancestor Saint Realm Beasts in the Hichu Luoshu were the same, their faces full of fear. Because Murong Yu controlled their souls, Murong Yu soon knew what they were afraid of. They didn't know why they were afraid. They just instinctively felt that the Mountain and Sea Scripture was a great threat to them and instinctively felt fear. It was like a mouse seeing a cat. What's so special about the Mountain and Sea Scripture? A trace of anticipation welled up in Murong Yu's heart. At the same time, a large amount of power poured into the Mountain and Sea Scripture out of thin air. The Mountain and Sea Scripture trembled violently, and an even more dazzling five-colored holy light erupted. Swoosh! All of a sudden, a golden dragon charged out of the mountain and sea scripture. The golden dragon wasn't an illusion, but a real dragon that was much longer than Murongyu's clone. The dragon's aura was vast and mighty, and a terrifying pressure spread over. At this moment, Murongyu felt like the sky was about to collapse. Murongyu felt that he was so weak in the face of the endless dragon's aura. He felt that his incomparably powerful physical body that had reached the level of a supreme sacred artifact was rapidly crumbling. As for the ferocious beasts around Murongyu, their bodies went limp and they all prostrated on the ground. Even the level 6 chaotic ancestor, Saint Realm Beast, had a look of fear on its face. Roar! The golden dragon raised its head and let out a dragon roar that shook the heavens. Then it attacked. Its golden dragon claws tore through the sky and annihilated billions of space-time. It appeared directly above the level 6 chaotic ancestor, Saint Realm Beast, and clawed down viciously. Roar! After all, the beast was powerful and reacted quickly. After letting out a roar, it clawed out viciously. Boom! In a split second, the two sides collided violently in midair, and there was an earth-shattering explosion. The level 6 chaotic ancestor, Saint Realm Beast, let out an earth-shattering roar, and its entire body was instantly sent flying. The golden dragon that appeared from the mountain and sea scripture also shattered with a bang. There was no blood and flesh splattering. After all, the real dragon was only condensed from power. Plop, plop, plop. The level 6 chaotic ancestor, Saint Realm Beast, was sent flying. As for the remaining 3 ferocious beasts, they were knocked unconscious by the impact of their terrifying power. At this moment, a dazzling 5-colored holy light burst out from the mountain and sea scripture. It descended from the sky and directly enveloped the 3 unconscious ferocious beasts. With a swoosh, the 3 beasts disappeared on the spot. It was unknown whether they were blasted into powder or something else. At this moment, Murongyu felt that the mountain and sea scripture seemed to have become stronger than before. However, it was also because of this that Murongyu suddenly realized that his power had been depleted. Immediately, he devoured a large amount of chaotic Saint Meridians to replenish his power. Could it be that the real dragon condensed from power has depleted my power? Murongyu was puzzled as he looked at the mountain and sea scripture in the sky. Murongyu did not know whether it was an illusion or not, but he felt that the 5-colored holy light of the mountain and sea scripture was even more intense than before. Moreover, the mountain and sea scripture seemed to be more mysterious and powerful. Attack! While Murongyu was sizing up the mountain and sea scripture, he ordered the beasts under his control to attack. Although the real dragon condensed from the mountain and sea scripture was powerful, it did not pose a substantial threat to Murongyu and the others. The feeling that he had earlier was just a feeling. Under Murongyu's control, although the beasts were still inexplicably fearful, they had already attacked. At this moment, Murongyu's power had also recovered to its peak. Therefore, he once again channeled his power into the mountain and sea scripture. With an earth-shattering dragon roar, the giant golden dragon that had appeared previously appeared again. Rumble! The rank 6 chaotic ancestor sage was once again sent flying while the giant golden dragon was once again blasted apart. However, it was not as thorough as before. Murongyu immediately swallowed the chaotic Saint Meridians that he had prepared earlier. At this moment, the rank 6 chaotic ancestor sage had already extended his figure and fled into the distance. The mountain and sea scripture gave him a strong sense of danger. Moreover, the attacks of Murongyu and the others could not be ignored. Although the beasts were ferocious, they were also intelligent. Therefore, he took to his heels and ran. Where do you think you're going? Murongyu did not speak. Instead, it was the blood demon who spoke. He had been chased by the beast for so long that he had been suppressing his anger for a long time. As the saying went, every dog has its day. Every dog has its day. This year it was his turn. Muronyu also controlled the mountain and sea scripture and the Hichu Luoshu to chase after the beast in a frenzy. The rank 6 chaotic ancestor sage beast could only flee for its life. The mountain and sea scripture's attacks again and again had already injured it greatly. If it did not escape, it would definitely die. However, what made it feel tragic was that although it was powerful, its speed was always its weakness. However, speed had always been its shortcoming. If not for this, Master Blood Demon would have been killed by it long ago. Therefore, under Murongyu's pursuit, it could not escape. Every time, it was forced to endure the attacks of the Blood Demon, the numerous beasts, and the mountain and sea scripture. The rank 6 chaotic ancestor sage beast could still withstand the attacks of the Blood Demon and the others. However, the mountain and sea scripture's attacks worsened its injuries each time. As such, it was chased for several days in a row. "It's time to end this," Muronyu said indifferently and immediately unleashed all kinds of big moves. At the same time, the mountain and sea scripture's attacks fell again. The rank 6 chaotic ancestor sage let out a series of screams. In the end, it was blasted to the ground. In the end, the mountain and sea scripture emitted a 5-colored holy light that enveloped the beast. Then, the beast disappeared. Muronyu once again felt that the mountain and sea scripture seemed to be a little stronger. "What's going on?" Muronyu kept the mountain and sea scripture. At this time, he realized that the mountain and sea scripture had actually changed. Although the mountain and sea scripture originally looked like a book, it could not be opened. It was just a closed book. However, now, Muronyu realized that there were a few more pages in the mountain and sea scripture. Therefore, Muronyu flipped through it. On the first page, there was nothing but a lifelike beast depicted. Below the beast, there was a line of words. It was the name of the beast, its race, its attacking methods, and many other annotations. "Holy Lord, this beast seems to be one of the beasts that chased after me." Master Blood Demon came over and said with a surprised expression. Murongyu's heart skipped a beat, so he flipped to the second page. Another vicious beast. Moreover, it was one of the beasts that chased after Blood Demon. Could it be? Muronyu had a guess in his heart and continued flipping. It was the same for the third page. When he flipped to the fourth page, Muronyu saw the rank 6 chaotic ancestor sage. The mountain and sea scripture had actually absorbed all the defeated beasts. The stronger the strength, the further back the pages of the book. Muronyu was surprised and did not know the meaning of the mountain and sea scripture's actions. Chapter 1557. Mountain Sea, what's going on? Muronyu was shocked. After studying it for a while, he still couldn't figure it out. In the end, he asked the mountain sea scripture's weapon spirit. However, Muronyu was just asking casually. That was because the mountain sea's memory was sealed. Previously, he didn't know what the mountain sea scripture's attack was like. He only knew that it was a little different. However, the mountain sea's voice soon came, which surprised Muronyu. "Sacred Master, this is the special part of the mountain sea scripture. In addition to the power of the mountain sea scripture itself, it can also seal these beasts. Then, it can be released during a battle." After the mountain sea's explanation, Muronyu finally understood what was going on. The beasts that the mountain sea scripture sealed appeared in the form of pictures on the pages of the mountain sea scripture. The further back the page was, the stronger the beasts were. Moreover, during a battle, as long as Muronyu used the mountain sea scripture, he could summon these sealed beasts to fight with only a small amount of energy. Most importantly, the strength of these beasts would not be affected at all. Whatever realm and strength they had before they were sealed, they would have the same realm and strength after they were summoned. In fact, these beasts could even increase their strength. Moreover, the number of pages of the mountain sea scripture was unlimited. The stronger the master was, the more pages he would have. In other words, as long as it was possible, the mountain sea scripture could seal countless beasts. Thinking of this, Muronyu's eyes lit up. If he sealed hundreds of millions of powerful beasts in the mountain sea scripture and summoned all of them during a battle, Who would be able to resist it? Of course, these were just Yu's thoughts. With his current strength, it was impossible to capture a large number of beasts in the primal chaos ancestor's saint realm. What was the use of beasts of other realms? Mountain Sea. How do these beasts survive after being sealed? Yu had always been curious about this. Sacred Master, you know that the Mountain Sea scripture gave birth to a Mountain Sea secret realm. However, the Mountain Sea scripture gave birth to two worlds. One is the Mountain Sea secret realm, and the other is the space provided for these sealed beasts to survive. It was called the summoning space. As long as it is a sealed beast, it will appear in that space, Mountain Sea explained. Summoning space? Yu was stunned. This meant that the Mountain and Sea scripture was not just an ordinary supreme artifact. It actually gave birth to two small worlds that could seal ferocious beasts. Suddenly, Yu thought a problem. Shanghai, logically speaking, you should have had several masters before me. What about the ferocious beasts they had sealed? Where are they now? Don't tell me they don't have any sealed ferocious beasts. Because before Yu sealed the fierce beasts, the Mountain and Sea scripture could not be opened at all. And after he sealed the ferocious beast, he could only open half a page. Because he had only sealed 4 ferocious beasts. If the previous owner of the Mountain and Sea scripture also had a sealed ferocious beast, then the Mountain and Sea scripture would not be like this. How is that possible? Although my memories have been sealed. However, he vaguely knew what was going on. Once the owner of the Mountain and Sea scripture dies, the Mountain and Sea scripture will return to its original state. The summoning space will shatter, and all the ferocious beasts inside will die. Before the new owner obtains it, the summoning space of the Mountain and Sea scripture does not exist. Only after the ferocious beasts are sealed will the summoning space reappear. And as more and more ferocious beasts are sealed, the summoning space will become larger and larger. Sacred Master, please do not worry. No matter what level the ferocious beasts are, once they are sealed by the Mountain and Sea scripture, they will not be able to break free. Unless the ferocious beasts you have sealed are stronger than the Mountain and Sea scripture. In that case, I don't think you have the ability to seal them. Yu rolled his eyes. Was the Mountain and Sea looking down on him? But it did not matter. With the Mountain and Sea scripture, Yu's strength skyrocketed again. Under certain special circumstances, the people of the Hichu Luo Shu could not come out, but the ferocious beasts sealed by the Mountain and Sea scripture could be summoned to kill enemies. This way, Yu's life-saving ability would greatly increase. For the time being, the Mountain and Sea secret realm does not need primal chaos ancestor saint-level ferocious beasts. Shenzhen's disciples are still unable to use them for training. Yu muttered to himself. In reality, if Shenzhen's disciples had the ability to contend with primal chaos ancestor saint-level ferocious beasts, they would be able to walk freely in the holy world. There is no need for them to continue staying in the Mountain and Sea secret realm. Therefore, there was no need for primal chaos ancestor saint-level ferocious beasts to appear in the Mountain and Sea secret realm. In the following time, I'll seal all the primal chaos ancestor saint-level ferocious beasts into the Mountain and Sea scripture. After making up his mind, Yu released the blood demon and continued to capture ferocious beasts. As for the primal chaos ancestor, saint-level ferocious beasts whose souls had been controlled by Yu, the Mountain and Sea scripture could no longer seal them. It seemed that the seal of the Mountain and Sea scripture also relied on souls. It was impossible for a person's soul to be controlled by 2 people. This was the reason. However, Yu did not cut off the soul connection with these ferocious beasts. These ferocious beasts would be left to guard the mountain gate of the Mountain and Sea secret realm. Time continued to pass, and a large number of ferocious beasts in the southern blue secret realm were captured. Even many primal chaos ancestor, saint-level ferocious beasts were captured. Now, Yu's strength was very strong, and he even had a level 6 primal chaos ancestor saint level ferocious beast. As long as he summoned this ferocious beast, all the ferocious beasts below the level 6 primal chaos ancestor saint level were no match for Muronyu. They were easily suppressed and then sealed in the mountain and sea scripture. With every passing moment, Muronyu's strength skyrocketed. However, it was a pity that he could only capture level 5 primal chaos ancestor, saint-level ferocious beasts. This was because there were too few ferocious beasts above this level. Other than the one that was sealed at the beginning, Muronyu had not encountered a second level 6 primal chaos ancestor, saint-level ferocious beast. As for those at a higher level, he had never heard of them. In fact, level 5 primal chaos ancestor, saint-level experts were already considered the pinnacle experts in the Holy World. There were not many of them in the Holy World. Although the Southern Blue Secret Realm was big, it was nothing compared to the Holy World. Muronyu estimated that the level 6 primal chaos ancestor, saint ferocious beast that he had sealed should be the strongest ferocious beast in the Southern Blue Secret Realm. He just did not know if Master Blood Demon had the misfortune of 8 lifetimes to encounter it. In the blink of an eye, a few decades had passed. As more and more primal chaos ancestor, saint-level ferocious beasts were sealed, Muronyu's personal strength became stronger and stronger. In the end, Muronyu summoned hundreds of primal chaos ancestor saint-level ferocious beasts and crushed all the ferocious beasts they encountered. 1,500 primal chaos ancestor saint-level ferocious beasts. When Muronyu swept through the entire Southern Blue Secret Realm, other than a portion of the ferocious beasts that were killed, the rest were sealed by Muronyu. With this, Shangzhen's strength reached the level of a superpower in one fell swoop. One must know that as long as a force had 1,000 primal chaos ancestor saints, that force could become a superpower. However, to become a superpower, at least 5,000 primal chaos ancestor saints were needed. An even more powerful superpower would need 10,000 primal chaos ancestor saints. As for the Holy Lands, the human race only had 10 Holy Lands, and not just any force could become a Holy Land. Other than the 1,000 primal chaos ancestor saint-level ferocious beasts, a large number of ferocious beasts in the Southern Blue Secret Realm had been collected. After delaying in the Southern Blue Secret Realm for almost 100 years, Muronyu finally decided to leave. At this time, there were not many ferocious beasts left in the Southern Blue Secret Realm. There were only a few scattered beasts, and this was because Muronyu did not want to capture all the ferocious beasts in the Southern Blue Secret Realm. Bastard! Muronyu is really too arrogant. In front of the entrance of the Mountain Sea Secret Realm, an expert from the Phoenix Clan let out a furious roar. They were experts from the Phoenix Clan who had come to redeem their people. However, they had waited here for more than 100 years. For more than 100 years, let alone Muronyu, they did not even see a single person for Shangzhen. If they were not worried that Muronyu would kill the experts from the Phoenix Clan after they left, they would have already left. They would have left long ago. However, 100 years had also accumulated a lot of anger in their hearts. If they were not worried, they would have attacked the Mountain Sea Secret Realm long ago. However, they did not dare to. Moreover, the people from the other forces in the Holy World did not dare to do so either. Muronyu was really too sinister. Who knew if he had any tricks up his sleeve? If they were caught by him, their losses would be great. Swish! Muronyu directly appeared in the Mountain Sea Secret Realm through Hichu Luoshu's teleportation. Holy Master! Muronyu immediately summoned Zhang Ao and the others. Has there been any movement in these years? Muronyu was, of course, referring to the Mountain Sea Secret Realm. The people from the Phoenix Clan have been waiting for more than 100 years. They are all furious. The others did not dare to attack the Mountain Sea Secret Realm, but they did not leave either. On the contrary, because of their gathering, a city has been formed outside the Mountain Sea Secret Realm. Zhang Ao quickly explained what had happened in the past 100 years. Even a city has been formed? It seems that these people have not given up on me. Morong sneered. In the mortal world, a big city could be formed in a few decades. Naturally, it was not a problem in the holy world. Morong didn't find this strange. Continue to ignore the people from the Phoenix clan. Morong smiled faintly, then disappeared from the hall. In the hall, everyone looked at each other. However, no one was afraid. So what if it was the Phoenix clan? They were not afraid, because they believed in Morong and themselves. One day, Shenzhen would trample the Phoenix clan and other forces under his feet, shake the holy world, and unify the world. However, they were also surprised by what Morong had been doing all these years. All disciples of Shenzhen do not resist. At this moment, Morong's indifferent voice sounded in the mountain sea secret realm. Chapter 1558. Before Morong could finish his sentence, all the disciples of Shenzhen who were in the mountain sea secret realm, but not in Shenzhen's headquarters, felt an irresistible suction force acting on their bodies. Thinking of Morong's words, many disciples of Shenzhen did not resist. Therefore, with a whoosh, 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 one after another, illusory figures appeared out of thin air in Shenzhen's headquarters. In the blink of an eye, all the disciples of Shenzhen who were in the wild were all brought to Shenzhen's headquarters by Morong. I wonder what the Holy Lord wants to do. Many people looked at Morong, who was standing at the top of the sky, in surprise. They were all extremely curious. Many people had already soared into the sky and appeared near Morong. "Come out, beasts!" Morong shouted in a low voice and waved his hand. Immediately, the Hichu Luoshu appeared not far in front of him. It expanded with the wind and instantly grew to cover the sky. In the next moment, many disciples of Shenzhen felt waves of murderous aura sweeping over like a torrent. Plop, plop. Some of the disciples of Shenzhen who were unprepared were directly suppressed by this terrifying murderous aura and fell to the ground. If it weren't for Morong's aura protecting the entire Shenzhen, they would have been directly suppressed to death by that terrifying aura. Whoosh, whoosh, swoosh. Black shadows shot out from Heat 2 and Luo Shu 1 after another. Accompanying them was an increasingly terrifying murderous aura and earth-shattering beast roars. Beasts! So many beasts. In the blink of an eye, hundreds of millions of beasts of different realms were released from the Hichu Luoshu by Morong. Seeing these beasts, many people of Shenzhen were shocked. That was because there were simply too many ferocious beasts, and each of them was extremely powerful. On the other hand, most of Shenzhen's disciples were rookies who had just ascended. "Husband, were you the one who caught these ferocious beasts for Shenzhen's disciples to train?" Yu Mengqing and the others walked over and asked. Morong nodded. "Husband, don't you think there are too many of them? Moreover, each of them is very powerful. If they all go crazy and attack Shenzhen, the 5 of us won't be able to stop them," Situ Xian said with a frown. This was because she had seen ferocious beasts of the Ancestor Saint realm, and a large number of them at that. Morong smiled faintly. "I have my own arrangements. No matter how powerful the beasts were, they were only there to provide training for Shenzhen's disciples. In the mountain and sea arcane pocket realm, they wouldn't be able to do anything. Moreover, there will be fewer and fewer ferocious beasts. Shenzhen and the others would become stronger and stronger. Moreover, they would kill fierce beasts during their training. If the rate at which the beasts were reproducing could not keep up with the rate at which they were being hunted, there would naturally be fewer and fewer of them. What is the Sacred Lord doing? With so many fierce beasts surrounding us, we can't go out." Many of Shenzhen's disciples were discussing. Looking at the many fierce beasts surrounding Shenzhen, their faces turned pale with fright. These fierce beasts were not suppressed. Moreover, at this time, Morong had already lifted the seal on them. How could the fierce beasts, who had recovered their strength, not be angry when they saw that they were captured and brought to this strange place? One by one, the fierce beasts roared and began to attack Shenzhen. However, because of Morong, their attacks were all in vain. Yu naturally heard the discussion of Shangzhen's disciples. However, he just smiled and did not answer. Naturally, he would not let these fierce beasts seal off Shangzhen. All of you, go back to your respective areas. Yu glanced at the countless fierce beasts and then shouted. Then, many of Shangzhen's disciples saw these fierce beasts disappear into thin air. They were directly teleported back to their areas by Yu. These areas had been set up by Yu long ago. They were from the Sage Realm to the Chaotic Ancestor Realm, from the lowest to the highest realm. Each area could only have fierce beasts of one realm. Moreover, only fierce beasts of lower realms could go deep into the area of fierce beasts of higher realms. Fierce beasts of higher realms could not go to the lower realms. In this way, there was no threat to Shangzhen's disciples. Moreover, a large area around Shangzhen was a safe area. There had to be some empty areas left for Shangzhen, right? The fierce beasts had been separated into their respective areas. In the future, all of Shangzhen's disciples can go to these areas to train. Remember, if you don't have a certain level of strength, don't go there. Otherwise, I won't lend a helping hand if there's a casualty during the training. Yu indifferently said before leaving. If Shangzhen wanted to improve his strength, Shangzhen's disciples had to go through cruel battles. Only then could they be truly powerful. Otherwise, they would be flowers in a greenhouse and would never be able to grow. Yu controlled the entire Mountain Sea secret realm. As long as he was willing, he could not let any casualties happen to those who were training. However, there was no point in doing so. If everyone had the idea that Yu would save them once they were in danger, what was the point of training? Holy Master, shouldn't we deal with the people of the Phoenix clan? Duan Muqing walked over and asked Yu in confusion. Yu nodded and smiled. It's time to collect the food expenses. 100 years have passed. How many resources have those people of the Phoenix clan wasted? I wonder if the Phoenix clan has brought enough food expenses? Yu smiled. Hearing Yu's words, Duan Muqing, Zhang Ao, and the others could not help but feel a chill in their hearts. They could not help but mourn for the people of the Phoenix clan. It was their greatest misfortune to have provoked Yu. Swoosh! One of Yu's energy clones appeared in front of the entrance of the Mountain Sea secret realm. Boom! However, just as Yu's energy clones appeared, an incomparably huge fist suddenly descended from the sky. Before Yu could react, it struck Yu's body. Bang! Yu's doppelganger was smashed apart. He did not even have time to see who had attacked him. B*****. In the Mountain Sea secret realm, Yu was talking to Yu Mengqing, Zhang Ao, and the others. However, he suddenly cursed and his face darkened. Husband, what's wrong? Sensing Yu's anger, Mu Liyue could not help but ask worriedly. My energy clones were destroyed. Yu suppressed the anger in his heart and said in a deep voice, could it be the Phoenix clan? Kurlan immediately guessed. It shouldn't be the Phoenix clan. Aren't they afraid that husband will kill those people from the Phoenix clan? However, if it wasn't the Phoenix clan, who would be so bold? Yu Mengqing frowned slightly. Yu's face was a little gloomy. Let's go out and see who it is. As he spoke, Yu created another energy clone and left the Mountain Sea secret realm. However, it was exactly the same as the last time. As soon as Yu's clone appeared, it was destroyed with a punch. However, this time, Yu saw the huge fist and felt the fist's aura. The aura was somewhat familiar. It seemed to be someone from the demon clan. Who is it? Yu was puzzled. At this time, there was already an argument outside the Mountain Sea secret realm. Stella, do you want to die? The one who spoke was a Chaos Ancestor saint from the Phoenix clan. They had been waiting here for 100 years, and their hearts were filled with anger. It was not easy to see Yu appear, but twice he was killed by Stella with a punch. Although it was just an energy clone, it did not cause any harm to Yu. However, what if Yu thought that it was the Phoenix clan who did it and killed those experts from the Phoenix clan? Stella, who was the expert from the demon clan that Yu had killed, was nearby. The Grand Elder of the Xianhua clan was extremely terrifying. He had reached the 8th stage of the Chaos Ancestor Saint realm. Kid, watch your words. Otherwise, I don't mind killing you. Stella appeared in front of the Phoenix clan and glanced at them with disdain. His expression was cold and murderous. Feeling Stella's cold, killing intent, the Phoenix clan's people felt a chill in their hearts. However, they were incomparably furious. Although the Demon clan was powerful, they were only about the same as the Phoenix clan. Moreover, they were all from the Sacred clan. How dare Stella threaten them? Stella, more than 10 people from our Phoenix clan are in Murong Yu's hands. If they are killed because of you, can you bear the responsibility at the very least? The expert from the Phoenix clan who spoke earlier said in a deep voice. None of them had such a high cultivation level. They were no match for Stella. Therefore, he could only use the entire Phoenix clan. He believed that Stella would still be afraid of him. However, because his only son was killed, Stella was even angrier than them. Not to mention the Phoenix clan, even the entire Sacred clan would not be able to stop him from killing Murong Yu. Are you threatening me? Stella's expression became even more gloomy. He looked murderous, as if he was about to attack. Many experts from the Phoenix clan were extremely aggrieved. First, they had to endure Murong Yu's anger. Now, even Stella was involved. Most importantly, the Demon clan was also very powerful. They could not intimidate Stella, even if they used the Phoenix clan. Stella, as long as we exchange for our people, you can do whatever you want to Murong Yu. We want him dead too. The experts from the Phoenix clan continued to speak, trying to persuade Stella. However, Stella did not bite at all. He only glanced at them coldly and did not say anything. The Phoenix clan's people were furious, but there was nothing they could do. At this moment, Murong Yu's voice was heard again. Experts from the Phoenix clan, listen up. It's not that I don't want to hand him over to you, but there's really nothing I can do. However, your people have been freeloading here for more than 100 years. Shouldn't their food expenses be increased a little? Moreover, the longer they stay here, the more their food expenses will increase. I really can't afford to hurt you. Can't afford to hurt you. The Phoenix clan's people cursed in their hearts. Some of the spectators felt that Murong Yu was even more shameless. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.